Hey everyone, and welcome to SIFTD's 2021 Game of the Year Awards. I'm Shane Satterfield, the founder of SIFTD, and alongside me is Matt Kyle, a longtime colleague and friend of mine. Is this our 6th year of doing Game of the Year Awards?
We would have started in 2015.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, 6 years. Yeah, because Marcus didn't make it to the Game of the Year Awards the first year of SIFTD. I ended up doing them with you. So this is our 6th year doing the Game of the Year Awards for SIFTD, and they've evolved over time. They've been bigger, they've been smaller, they've had more categories, they've had less categories. This year, I believe we have 23 different categories. I think I saw IGN's awards. They only have like 11 or something. Like they really chopped them down this year. I don't know why. Maybe because what we were looking at with the Game Awards was that like it wasn't a great year for games. Let's just be honest.
It was some limited.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It's just a lot of stuff ended up getting delayed out of the year, and so it ended up being less exciting than maybe I think we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean we're lucky that Halo finished strong.
Yeah.
Finished the year strong.
Coming in right at the last minute in December. Before we get into everything, I just want to get through some nuts and bolts. We are SIFTD. We are supported 100% by Patreon donations at patreon.com/SIFTD. If you'd like to drop us a gift of a beer or two, you can do that by going to siftd.net/donate. You can literally just put in $1 or $1 million, and you can pay for it with your PayPal account or with a credit card. We take payments from 130 different countries. So if you're someone who watches our stuff on YouTube or listens to it on a podcast service and you want to say thanks for the year of content that we've given you guys, that's a great way to do it without any commitment as far as a recurring payment every month like there would be on Patreon. But of course, it would be great if you could pledge at our Patreon. And if you do, if you pledge $4 or more per month, you get all our content early. For Pactor Factor, that's a week early. For stuff like this, typically 4 or 5 days, something like that. But we do make sure that our patrons always get hooked up first. So here we are for our Game of the Year Awards for 2021. As I said, we have over 20 categories. There's a couple that we are not going to tackle that maybe you might expect. There's no fighting category this year. Matt, do you think that's a right call?
I mean, at this point, it's pretty rare to have a year with a more than one standout fighting game. If you're forcing me to pick this year, I'd say Guilty Gear Strive.
Yeah.
But also, I haven't played that enough to really know.
Me either.
I haven't dug in. I don't have that. I have not had the time to dig into it. And a lot of one of the ways I used to know fighting game is one way or the other, whether they're good or not, or beyond whether just I like them, is I'd go to some of the local events and play casuals with people, and you can't do that anymore.
Nope, so. You can't do anything with anyone anymore. I agree with that. If we were to do a fighting category, I mean, it's the default winner. It was maybe the only decent fighting game that released last year.
Yeah, the other one would be the Virtua Fighter release for PS4, PS5, which is just a re-release with some new costumes. And bad online.
Yep, exactly. A couple other categories that did not make the cut this year. No sports game this year. But I do, just like Matt wanted to mention Guilty Gear Strive, I want to mention Riders Republic. I kind of wish that I could have found some place for it in our awards. But you'll have to wait and see if I did. But I think I probably just told you that I didn't. But that game to me is really good, and it would have won for me easily Sports Game of the Year. The problem is that all the other sports games were bad. FIFA, I think, was okay. I'm just terrible at it. But Madden this year wasn't great. It just wasn't a good year for sports games, so that's not on the docket. And then finally, no VR game. First time we've not had a best VR game in a while. This has been an awful year for VR.
I didn't play any VR games.
I played a couple, but like I have problems with motion sickness with VR. And so, it's hard for me to play them in longer stretches than like 10 or 15 minutes at a time. And honestly, Matt, there just weren't any VR releases this year that convinced me, you know what, it's worth maybe getting sick to play it. There just weren't. So those are the three categories you might expect that are not going to be in the awards: fighting, sports, and VR. But now, on to the ones that are, and there are plenty. We're going to kick things off with Best First-Person Shooter. Another thing I'd say about these awards, Matt, this year is that you and I agreed on more awards, I think, than ever. As far as, so there's going to be a lot of...
There wasn't a lot to pick from.
There wasn't.
Like a lot of times you hit a category and I'm like, oh, I think my instinct is this.
Yeah.
But Let me see what else came out.
I know I was right.
No, I was
right.
That was definitely the best one.
Yeah.
I was like,
So there's going to be a lot of awards this year where Matt and I announce them together because we've picked the same game, because the competition in some categories, it was just blatantly obvious which game should win. Mostly we just pick winners. As we get towards the end and we have some of the bigger awards, then we will pick a runner-up and a winner. But I think we only have like 3 or 4 categories where we do that. So for the most part, 19 or 20 of them are just the winner. And I know, if you remember me from the Game Trailers days, we'd have 5 nominees for each category, and we'd write a paragraph about each one. We've cut it to the quick here at SIFTD. So, and I think most people are doing awards those ways. As I said, IGN, I think, only has like 11 awards it's even handing out this year. So people are kind of cutting them down. We don't really do that because we've been doing them this way since I started SIFTD. But if you remember our Game of the Year awards at Game Trailers, those things were a beast. It sucked. Oh, man. It was so much work at the end of the year when you've already worked all through the year and you're just dragging your butt across the finish line, and then here comes this huge project. So I decided to prevent that tragedy here at SIFTD, and we do things a little more streamlined. And we're going to kick things off.
I remember always being annoyed that there was a period where we did our Game of the Years in January.
Yeah.
We gave time to play everything, and then basically executive branch forced us to do it in early December. And so we had to cut off a bunch of stuff because stuff always came out in December.
Yep. I just did Ask Shane Anything this past weekend, and it was great, by the way. You guys should try to get in on that when you can. We had a really good discussion this time, and that was one of the topics that came up. Like, should we do our Game of the Year awards in January? Should the Game Awards happen in January? And I explained the myriad reasons why they happen in December, just getting talent there, you know, when they're down, they have downtime from whatever they're working on at the time. It just works out that way. So, but anyway, we're all the talent you need.
In the end, we started doing, we really started doing them in December in earnest when the VGAs started being in December regularly, so that we could get everybody who was in town to come accept their awards at our show, because they were already in town for the VGA.
Yeah, and we didn't care. We were like, whatever. Like, if we're going to pay to bring them in.
If they weren't there, you can't control what they do during the day.
Yeah, we didn't care either. Because if they're doing something with you, it's just more promo for what we're doing.
Yeah.
So if they go on something that you're doing and they're like, oh, we're in town for
and our stuff
VGAs.
Inevitably aired after.
Yeah.
Usually. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's kick things off with Best First-Person Shooter. Matt, you and I picked the same winner in this one, which should tip people off to what the winner is.
Yeah, there's not a lot of alignment in that this year.
And that game is Halo Infinite. Best First-Person Shooter. Now, you guys may not be surprised that Matt picked that, but you may be surprised that I did. Because I do play a metric ton of shooters, and I've played, I think, every significant shooter from this year.
I'm not super surprised because it's the only thing you haven't had serious caveats about.
Yep, exactly. You just explained that's my explanation for why it was the winner. And this was easy. Because honestly, I haven't played Call of Duty Vanguard hardly at all. Like, I played it a ton.
I always forget the name of that game. It's so weird. I keep thinking Warzone.
A lot of people have forgotten the game itself because its sales are almost cut in half from last year. So Vanguard isn't great. Battlefield 2042 is a total travesty. It's a broken mess. It was easy to pick Halo Infinite because, like or hate what Halo Infinite is doing, the code is very clean. It works very well. It does exactly what it's supposed to. They're just now starting to roll out Slayer and a bunch of other playlists this week, which is some stuff I've been asking for. Hopefully they roll out some more big team battle maps. But really what it came down to for me is I was like, what shooter have I had the most fun playing this year? And it was Halo Infinite. Not just the multiplayer, but that was also the most fun multiplayer I've played this year. The campaign. That campaign is one of the best first-person shooter campaigns I have played in a long, long time. And I play Call of Duty every year. So I feel like I'm pretty
And I don't, for the reason that I don't think their campaigns are very good, if they're even there.
Yeah, and they're usually like 3 hours long. Like, this is a monster compared to most shooter campaigns. Like,
and look, I like open world stuff, and it pulled me in with all those stupid collectibles and things like that. Like, it revamped Halo into something that's more along what I'm looking for now, and I appreciated that. And honestly, it's the first first-person shooter campaign I finished in a long time that made me wish there was more. Maybe Titanfall 2
Yeah.
Well, not even Titanfall 2.
Titanfall 2 is pretty short.
Titanfall 2 is pretty short, but also Titanfall 2 is just about as long as that story should be.
Yeah, I mean the story itself, but I enjoyed playing it so much.
Yeah,
I
would
definitely wanted more.
I would like another campaign of Titanfall 2, I guess would be.
Like 10 hours is what I wanted. I got about 5 out of it.
Maybe give me another 5-hour campaign.
Yeah.
To go with it.
And I don't know if we'll ever see another Titanfall. I'm really starting to wonder at this point.
And they're pulling the first game completely down or something. I saw
licensing something or other, I'm guessing. Yeah. Halo Infinite's great. If you haven't played it yet, go play it. Again, as we've said last week, it's free on Game Pass, quote unquote free. Even if you just get Game Pass for a month, spend the $13 to play Halo Infinite. It's worth every penny. It's a ton of fun. You may end up getting hooked on the multiplayer, but easily to me, it was the best first-person shooter of 2021. And I'll be honest, I really didn't expect that to happen.
No. No, I was fully ready for this just to be another blah entry to a series that has 2 blah entries in a row so far.
Yeah, my runner-up is Far Cry 6. I know we said we weren't going to give runners-up, but
yeah,
like I liked Far Cry 6 more than I liked Call of Duty or Battlefield.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the only other shooter I liked this year.
Yeah, so it wasn't
not that I didn't play Call of Duty or Battlefield, but
yeah, it wasn't a great year for the genre, but Halo Infinite is still a great game. It would be a competitor in any other year for best first-person shooter.
I guess some would count Resident Evil Village.
I guess.
I didn't think the shooting was very good in that, though.
Yeah.
The rest of it was good.
Yeah, it felt a little awkward. I struggled to find places for that game in these awards, too.
Yeah, it slipped through the cracks, basically. For me.
It's weird. Some games, when you get to the end of the year, there's just no place where they fit, unfortunately. And so anyway, we got a bunch more awards to get to, but Halo Infinite, the easy winner for Best First-Person Shooter of 2021. Next category. Best multiplayer game. Matt, what is your pick?
Well, as someone who's not super into competitive multiplayer outside of fighting games, I got a chance to cheat this year, so I get to pick It Takes Two, which is just co-op multiplayer.
Yep.
But I think it worked really, really well. Way better than I expected it to.
Oh, this is one of the most pleasant surprises of 2021. I won Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
Yeah, especially coming from the people that made what was the way out.
A Way Out.
The Prison Break game that I have a physical revulsion towards for whatever reason. I just don't like that game. But this is great. Like I was really unprepared for how good this was, and it's definitely the most fun I had playing with another person in a video game this year.
I would almost agree with that. There's a lot of competition, I think, this year, and for multiplayer, and there was all different types. I mean, your winner is a cooperative 3D platformer. Mine is not, but it's also probably not a game people expect. People may be sitting there right now waiting for me to say Halo Infinite. It's not Halo Infinite. My winner is Chivalry 2. I had a blast playing this game. I played in the beta, and then once the beta ended and I got final review code, I played it even more. Now, I do realize that there's a Chivalry 1, so it's not completely innovative. And I'll say this, they didn't change a ton about this compared to the first game, but it's been such a long time since the first Chivalry that I had almost completely forgotten what it was like to play it again. So it felt completely fresh and new to me when I was playing.
Also, as I will always say, execution matters way more than innovation.
Yeah.
And they executed that guy real well.
Well, they finally got where the first Chivalry should have arrived at, and it didn't.
The first Chivalry, I haven't played Chivalry 2, but the first one always felt a little more slippery than it should have been.
And archaic, in all honesty, in a lot of ways. It felt like this thing that like one dude threw together that just kind of caught fire.
Because it was that, yeah.
It was kind of that. Yeah, this game, much more polished, feels much more substantial. The combat feels way, way better than it did in the first game. It doesn't feel like you're running around on like ice skates like you did a lot in the first one.
The first one felt like it was a Source Engine because it felt like Source Engine.
Yeah. I really, really enjoyed this game. I had a ton of fun with it. I'm still playing it here and there. Unfortunately, like I don't have a way to play PC games on my TV. I think that has hurt my playtime of this game more than anything. I have to go back and sit in my PC chair to play it after sitting in that PC chair all day working.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised they haven't done console versions.
Yeah, but I have
Maybe
the PC version. I mean, even if they did, like I have the PC version, and so I'm kind of trapped on that platform right now. I've still spent it, like, just to put it in perspective, I still played it a ton. So there were tons of days where I worked like 12, 14 hours in a chair and at the end of those 12 or 14 hours, decided I would stay in that chair to play this game. So I had a lot of fun with it. I don't see another game coming along until probably Chivalry 3 that plays like this game. And so it was good to get back to it and play it again. This game the original was a huge hit at game trailers. People were playing it after work like every night for like weeks and weeks. And so there was a little bit of nostalgia tied into playing this for me too. It reminded me a lot of my old coworkers at game trailers fondly. And I think that maybe played into it a little bit as well. But it's just fun. And it's also one of those games where stuff happens all the time that you would never expect. Like just random, that's what happens when you have like 100 people running at each other with melee weapons. Like crazy stuff is going to happen. And the game allows for it too, because you can pick up like anything and throw it. And if you actually throw something at someone, it can kill them. I had a ton of fun with this. If you guys have not checked it out yet, I highly recommend it. My guess is it's probably pretty cheap by now. So my multiplayer game, the best multiplayer game of 2021 for me, is Chivalry 2. All right. Let's move on. Next up, Best Adventure Game. This genre gets confused a lot, I believe, online. Like, if you were to Google, like, Best Adventure Game, like, most of the stuff that's going to come up in Google is going to be, like, action-adventure games. But really, what adventure games are, and I hate to kind of spell it out so plainly, generally, they're games that have a low focus on interactivity and combat. It's not really about how the controls feel. A lot of them are more like puzzle-driven. Things like that. Point-and-click games are adventure games. Telltale's games are adventure games. That's the genre that we're talking about right here. And Matt, what is your adventure game of the year for 2021?
Mine is Sable.
Sable. The game I could recreate in Microsoft Paint.
So you claim. But this has actually made it onto more Game of the Year lists than I expected it
It has, yeah. I've seen it around.
I thought I was the only one who had a soft spot for this thing. But I have probably played this for like 25, 30 hours.
A lot of people say it's broken. Is that true?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like there's places where it's a little broken, but also you can use the broken to your advantage in places. The climbing is a little wonky, but you can make that work for you.
Okay.
It's not where I would love to see it get another layer of polish on it.
Yeah.
But,
another pass.
Yeah, but in terms of just sort of getting you out there, exploring stuff, saying, look in I bet there's something on top of that. I bet I can get up there somehow.
How do you get up there? Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of that, and like, I can't do that yet, but if I could climb for another 2 seconds, I could. So I'm gonna go collect some more of those little worm things, and turn them in and get more stamina, so I can get up to the top. I knew if I got up there, I'd be able to glide over there, and there's another worm thing.
This has light RPG elements as well.
A little bit, yeah. There's like outfits you can get that they don't really do anything, but they make you look cool, and they make people react to you a little different in places. You can get money for things, and like that's how you buy the outfits and parts for your hover bike. You can customize that. You can even turn it into like a weird insect thing if you want. It's very weird. Little legs on it and stuff. And there's a big world to explore. There's not a whole lot of stuff to do in it, but every time you see some kind of structure, there's something there. There's like crashed spaceships where you can go in, and if you can activate stuff, you can learn about why there are people on this world. Like it's what happened, and because it's so. Basically, these people are descendants of like crashed space travelers, and it's been so long they don't remember that.
Interesting.
And so it's been thousands of years or something.
I played a good bit of this.
So I put this up every well, at least once a week. I would say sort of like what I did with No Man's Sky, where I'll just put it up and like put it on and play it while I'm listening to podcasts or it's a relaxing game. And it's of all the adventure games this year, this is the one I keep going back to.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty much why it's the one I didn't leave behind when I was done with it, or didn't leave behind when we when we finished talking about it on the show. Sometimes I'll just like never go back and play something again
because you're like mission accomplished.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, we talked about it.
I don't need to know anything more about that game ever again.
It's an interesting mental thing that you go through when you're on a podcast.
Yeah,
whether you go back to a game or not, because you do feel like once you finish talking about it on a show, you've done the job. But then you need to separate, like, is it a job or is it, what am I going to do for fun? What do I do with my free time just to enjoy myself? It's very weird. It's hard to explain unless you've done it, really. But I think that's a good pick. I played it a good bit and I enjoyed it. So I can totally understand why it would be.
And they are still working on, patches have gone up to fix some things, like the jerky hoverbike stuff went away. The weird frame rate hitching is gone now. Like they've continued to improve it.
Yep.
So we waited. I waited years for that game, and it's certainly not like Game of the Year candidate or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But like I really liked what it delivered, and I love the look. I love the Mobius inspired visuals, and
I love the look of that game.
It doesn't look like anything else.
It really doesn't. Even though it's cell shaded, like its cell shading is completely unique.
Yeah. Oh, and they added visibility toggles, because one of the things when it launched, like when it got dark at night in buildings, you couldn't see anything. Like all the outer, the outlines of everything, they softened those when it's dark to the point that you couldn't see. It was just like a big blue blur.
Wow.
I even posted pictures to Twitter. I'm like, this can't be intentional that it looks, because I can't see anything.
Right.
Like, I don't want to look.
Yeah.
And they added like options to like make heavier or heavy outlines of things, so you can always see what you're looking at better.
Stuff like that always puzzles me. It's like, how did they not catch that?
Yeah, like what were you playing that on that you couldn't? You didn't
some
see that.
old like tube TV or something, maybe. I don't know. I think that's a good pick though. My pick for Adventure Game of the Year, and I will say this was one of the tougher categories for me to choose, and there aren't many. Most of these were very obvious.
Yeah, this was a pretty crowded category this year.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're picking between like two.
I mean, there was a time when it wouldn't have been in the show.
That's true.
Give like 10 to 11 years ago.
Cut it out. Yep, absolutely. My pick for Adventure Game of the Year for 2021 is Little Nightmares 2. This is Bandai Namco's kind of indie experiment that it's been going on for a while now. It's one of those little people, big world games where you are like this little almost mouse-sized character in this world full of gigantic people and creatures. It's not really a horror game. It's just more spooky than anything else. But there are some very clever puzzles in this game. The tone in this game is excellent. They nail it. The art, the lighting. I loved everything about this game. The other game that was right there for me was Life is Strange: True Colors. And I waffled back and forth on those two games, and I just felt like Little Nightmares 2 just felt more fresh to me. And look, there's nothing wrong with Life is Strange: True Colors. The writing's good. The story's very heartfelt. There are a couple twists in the story that I never saw coming. But I just felt like I had played things very similar to it before. The only game that I had played that feels like Little Nightmares 2 is Little Nightmares 1. Mm-hmm. There's really no other game like it. There's the art style and it's very macabre without being like a horror game. It's hard to explain.
It's got a Tim Burton quality.
Yeah,
to it. Like if Tim Burton made like more stop motion stuff.
Yeah, like I would be okay if my sister came to me and was like, hey, your nephew is interested in this game. Is it okay if he plays it? I'd be like, yeah, like he can play Little Nightmares too. He's like 8 years old. Like
it's got a I don't know, Coraline or
that's actually a really good comparison. Yep.
Even sort of Guillermo del Toro a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah. The other game we were talking about earlier from the Game Awards that reminded me of Pan's Labyrinth. One of the first DVDs I ever bought, oddly enough. And I think I watched it once and never watched it again. So anyway, there you go. That's my pick for Best Adventure Game of 2021, Little Nightmares 2. Next up, we're moving on to Best RPG. And Matt, since we have been doing these awards, I do not think this genre has been more barren than it was, this year.
It was not a lot here.
It made it easy to make my pick, but it shouldn't be easy to make my pick for Best RPG. Mm-hmm. Usually every year there's like 6 action RPGs and 4 really good turn-based RPGs to choose from. This year, the pickings were pretty slim.
Yeah. And certainly, even the ones that I liked were more, this is a little delightful thing, like The Voice of Cards, which is a fine little turn-based RPG that is very based around cards, presentationally based around cards. It's not a card game by any means. Just cards are an aesthetic in that game more than anything else.
Then you have things like Bravely Default, which is like
cool, but
itches a nostalgia itch, but it also gets very repetitive.
But once you scratch that itch, you're like, oh, there's a lot more of this to go, isn't there?
I'm done scratching.
So the one, and I admit I haven't finished this yet either because it's gigantic. But my pick is Tales of Arise.
Yeah, I mean, it's really one of like 3 viable options.
Yeah, and like the reason for this one, I mean, I've always liked the Tales series. I fall out of it for a while because I felt like they were getting sort of flimsy.
Yeah.
For a while, after Vesperia, I felt like Bessaria was sort of like meh.
I never played Bessaria at all.
And I didn't finish it by any means. Not like, I haven't finished this because I'm just still working on it. I haven't finished Bessaria because I'm just like, that's enough.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm done.
This isn't a game that you talked about on the show and then you put it down for good.
No, I came back to this. This one's still installed. And believe me, if I could uninstall it, I would because it's taking up a lot of space.
How big is it?
I don't want to say it's like 70 gigs.
Oh, wow.
60 gigs.
Wow. Okay.
But I really like this one. I think this is a really good example of how to take the sort of B-list JRPG into the modern, no B-list game space.
Yeah.
Like they made a AAA Tales game, basically.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I think they pull it off. It's not perfect, and it's probably not going to change your mind if you can't stand the sort of anime JRPG thing subgenre. But I will say that the voice acting avoids the weird anime grunting way better than Final Fantasy VII does. There's something about sort of the more straightforward presentation of this that I find the tropes more tolerable than the way they present them in Final Fantasy VII's remake, which they're clearly thinking about it when they're making this, but they're not doing the same thing, and it's two Tales of Arise's benefit that they're not trying to do the same thing. Otherwise, it does follow kind of the form. But it was kind of nice to get into the formula of the old JRPG. It's like, okay, go to this. Now you got to a new town. Something's wrong in this town. What's wrong in this
you
town?
got to fix it.
Oh, this is wrong in this town. This guy with curiously advanced and careful character design to his visual look appears to know things about the problem in this town. Oh, yeah. I guess he's going to join us to solve the problem in this town. Yeah. He's going to come with us now that we've solved the town. And you do that 5 times, and then you've got a whole team together, and now you got to go kill the bad thing. So that's basically the formula, but it all works, and presentationally gorgeous. Music's great. Like, this is the best Tales game since Vesperia.
Cinetype brings up something good in chat. What made you choose between this versus Scarlet Nexus?
If I'm completely honest, I pretty much forgot about Scarlet Nexus.
Well, there you go. If you forgot about it.
Yeah. Like I actually
it did leave a lasting impression.
No, I actually did like Scarlet Nexus when I played it, but I did not really feel... I felt like after about 15, 20 hours, it had shown me what it had.
Yeah.
And in this, honestly, this obviously had shown me what I had. The real-time combat in this is good. It's a little overwrought once you get all the systems unlocked. Yeah. But once you learn how it works, it is kind of satisfying in the sense that, like, if you don't know what you're doing or you're doing things wrong, this boss battle will take like 30 minutes, or it could take like 4 minutes.
Yeah. The boss I fought in this took me a long time.
Oh, and some of the optional stuff is going to take you forever. They're long fights.
It's chipping away.
And the teammate AI is pretty dumb.
But you can instruct them.
You can instruct them. You can work with it. But early on, you're like, okay, well, the thing, the big monster is going to shoot. Like, here's the grid for where it's going to hit. Everybody get out, and like all your AI teammates just run right. They weren't there before, and they're like, oh, we're going to get in front of the thing. I'm like, no, guys, over here. So you got to learn how to micromanage and stuff like that. But like, the big difference I think there is I wanted to see what happened to these people.
I could tell you why I like this game better than Scarlet Nexus is because Scarlet Nexus design feels like a throwback to me, like the way the levels are designed. This feels more like a modern action RPG with a big sprawling semi-open world. Scarlet Nexus was like very self-contained, very small areas that you fight through.
Yeah.
You finish the area, you load in the next one.
Like the combat's good, but like it just doesn't. It doesn't match up to the scope it wants you to think it has.
Yeah.
Also, Japanese like action RPG designers, I never need to go up or down another metal staircase ever again. Just so you know, like I don't ever need to run along scaffolding ever again. You never need to do that again. It's okay. Yeah. Make them out of stone or something. I'm just like, if I have to run down one more OSHA uncertified staircase in a JRPG, I'm going to rip it out of the console.
Yep.
So yeah, this one I think just hit all it hits all the marks, and it does have a more more traditional, I guess, but it does have a more epic feel.
Oh, absolutely. Nexus. Yep, that's why I liked it more. I also got tired of the constantly having to choose a specific ability or attack in Scarlet Nexus for a very specific enemy. Mm-hmm. I like more like a one size fits all as long as you're actually good design. Instead of like you have to use this to take on this type of an enemy. I mean, Tales
does have that. You got to use certain things for certain weaknesses, but you can pretty much power through if you have to. It's not going to penalize you for not having that character do anything. Also, like, most enemies in Tales, especially once you get everybody unlocked, tend to be weak to more than one thing, unless they're very specific. I never felt like I was hamstrung. Like, I never felt like I had to sit around waiting for that other character to re-ready their assist move, so I could actually do damage, which happened in Scarlet Nexus a fair amount.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Okay, and I have a completely different pick for best RPG of 2021. This may surprise people a little bit. We'll see. My pick is Monster Hunter Stories 2. And I know you.
This was the other one I considered.
And I know you probably thought I was going to say Monster Hunter Rise, which was the traditional Monster Hunter game that was a Switch exclusive that now I believe is coming to PC as well. I liked this way more. Monster Hunter Rise.
So do I, but I hate Monster Hunter, so that's not a surprise.
Monster Hunter Rise is just a typical another online Monster Hunter game. This game felt completely different, felt like something completely new. The combat system in it is turn-based, but there's all these wrinkles to it where you can either be riding on your beast or you can be on foot. There's all these synergies that you can do. The attacks are way more impressive and fun. Whereas Monster Hunter Rise was kind of like this chip away at big bosses or, kind of learn how to manipulate wildlife. This game was more about straight-up combat strategy, and I really enjoyed it. I also thought the story was miles better than Monster Hunter Rise. Not even close, honestly.
Monster Hunter calling Monster Hunter stories is almost a generous.
Yeah, and the story's legit in this and really good. Like it legitimately.
This is a straight-up turn-based JRPG.
Yeah,
like there's no.
It legitimately hooked me in. I feel like a lot of people overlooked this game this year. I would, Christmas is a good time to get games that like you don't want to pay for yourself.
Probably in part because it was only Switch and PC. So if you were focusing on PS5, PlayStation, or Xbox, that you would have missed this.
Yeah.
But it is good. I really liked it.
There's a whole creature raising element to it where you're collecting eggs and raising your own creatures.
Really, the only thing that kept it from winning the spot was Monsties.
No, the word Monsties.
I fucking hate that word. I just can't. And then when I found out that it's actually a combination of monster and bestie, fuck you.
That was it.
You're lucky I didn't buy a physical copy of this because I would just thrown it out the window at that point. But no, I really did like this game.
Yeah, I had a ton of fun with this game. I enjoyed it. It's also long and beefy. You get your money's worth with it. I really enjoyed it. And now in hindsight, maybe the RPGs of 2021 weren't too bad.
A couple of good ones.
Yeah, Scarlet Nexus is...
we didn't get like a Witcher 3 or an Elder Scrolls or like a big Western thing. But Japan delivered.
It did. Yeah. Which
Scarlet Nexus was good too.
I feel like it's been a while since I've been able to say that.
If you're into Shin Megami Tensei 5, like
there's another
that.
One. Yeah.
I didn't like it very much.
Too grindy for me. I started.
But if that's what you're after, it does it really well.
Yeah, it does. But that's, to be honest, that's like number 4 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because there's 4 of them, basically. But Japan came through
in
a variety of different ways and with a variety of different tastes.
North America was delaying. Japan was delivering.
Yeah.
In RPGs anyway.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's best RPG of 2021. Next up, best indie game.
Chris Tales. Yeah, somebody mentioned Chris Tales was good. Colombian.
Yeah.
Colombian game.
Well, that was the one that had the crazy like dual reality thing. Yeah. That whole mechanic where it was a little too confusing maybe for me in certain points.
Yeah, it was just unique. I liked that.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
I was into that game.
I played it a lot, actually. I spent a lot of time with that one. So you're right. That's another good option. And not from Japan, I would add. So anyway, best indie game. This is a wide net we're casting here with this one.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's like indie games are really
so many.
The indie games are really propping the team up this year. With all the AAA stuff kind of fell by the wayside or slipped to next year.
This is one category where I give an award for it, but I would never say that my choice is like the definitive best indie game. Because I don't think, maybe Robert Manuel, I don't know if he's in chat today.
He is in there. I've seen him talking.
If he's in there, like he probably could deliver to you the definitive indie game of 2021. I am just being perfectly honest with you. I have not played anywhere near enough.
I haven't played it. I mean, look,
I don't know if you can.
The LA Times, yesterday, the LA Times put up their game of the year, their top 10 list. And I'd never heard of 4 of them.
Really?
Like, I have it here. They had Behind the Frame, The Finest Scenery. I've never heard of that. Genesis Noir, never heard of that.
I haven't heard of that.
Overboard and Last Call. I had never heard of any of those games. I looked them up, and they're all really interesting.
Yeah.
I have also not played Chicory.
I haven't played it either. That is one I should have played.
The dog painting game.
Yeah.
Everyone says that's great, and I haven't gotten
Yeah, that game's got pretty much unanimous praise.
And its number one was The Artful Escape, which I also haven't played.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot out there.
There's just too much.
I haven't played Solar Ash yet.
Yeah, I've spent some time with Solar Ash, enough to know it's not my indie game of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I still want to play it.
It's good, but it's not mind-blowing.
So I played a lot of interesting stuff this year in terms of that. I really did like Unpacking. I feel like I came to that late because it was already sort of the darling.
Well, it's funny, like, you don't expect that game to be what it is. At least I didn't.
Yeah.
It ends up having, like, this insane, like, narrative that's told in a very unique way.
Yeah, but in the end, I had to pick the game that I liked the best.
Yeah.
And that was Inscription.
Inscription. I have not played this at all.
It's real good. It is. I mean, you do have to get. It's a dark card game. But get further. Like, I can't tell you more about it.
Really?
Because it's
spoil
not
something?
just that. It's not a card game.
Oh.
It is, though. The first act is...
It's a card battle.
You're playing card battle game against a mysterious guy who kills you. If you fail, if you lose. And some of your cards are alive and they take offense if you play them wrong. And, like, you have to build your deck from, like... by solving puzzles around the room you're trapped in and stuff, and finding ancient cards or old cards that are also alive, and like trying to help you beat the guy. But once you get through that first part, like you're not just playing cards forever. You get to another thing, and the game is very different.
Oh, so it changes.
Yeah, I mean this is the.
This trailer is pretty nuts, dude.
Yeah, this is
like,
by the
stuff that it shows in like a minute.
This is by the makers of Pony Island. If you played that.
I haven't.
Pony Island is a few years ago, but it starts as sort of a game with like a horse on an island, and becomes one of the most horrifying things you'll ever play.
Really?
Pony Island is a trip.
Wow.
If you get it,
I've not played it.
Go ahead and grab that for like $4 or whatever it is on Steam, and like play Pony Island. And good luck.
Really?
Like it's a.
How did I not hear about this? Interesting.
Yeah. It's But
so what does Encryption end up becoming if it's not a card battle game? Does it become an adventure game, an action adventure?
Yeah, sort of, or like almost an escape room game, but also an FMV game, but also a ARG, but like it goes places, like but a lot of like discovering that is part of the fun. But it's a 3-act game, and none of the acts play the same.
Okay.
But like. The tone is great. The what it was doing is great. The actual card game is great.
It's
like
good.
It's a good game in and of itself. Like even if that doesn't end up really
just
being
one
the
act.
point.
Yeah.
You can go back and play it, as much as you want. And it's funny. Like it's funny and it's creepy and it's great. Like and it came out of it didn't come out of nowhere if you were paying attention, but there was sort of it was one of those things where like. Like especially when you follow on Twitter all the people we know in the industry, and like suddenly like 4 days before something comes out, you see like Rob Manuel and Patrick Klepek and Shane Bettenhausen and all of them are mentioning the same game, and you're like, oh, I better figure out what that is.
Right. Yep.
And this was one of those for me. It's like
Gotcha.
Everybody's talking about Inscription. I guess I better go look at this.
I missed it. I'm not on Twitter very much, though. I don't have time to spend.
So
on
this
Twitter.
was definitely a word of mouth game for me, and I'm glad I listened because it was really good.
Awesome.
I mean, this was a great year for indie stuff.
It is.
But this was by far my favorite, and I think someone who knows me understands why Inscription hooked me.
I'm going to play it on your recommendation. And people are going to hate me for my pick for best indie game because it's... They are, though. Can you see why I'm saying that?
Yeah. But it is one.
It is. And it's really good. And that game is Kenna Bridge of Spirits.
Yeah,
and
I really liked it.
I think the thing about it for me is that, like...
This is a very small team. Like, it is an indie game. I mean, people think of it as a Sony game for some reason, but...
People don't think it's an indie game because it looks and plays
amazing.
so well.
Yeah. It's a legitimate indie game.
And I don't want to say, like, the goal of an indie studio is to make a game where people can't tell it's from an indie studio. I'm just saying this was from an indie studio, and it's a really, really good action adventure. I had a ton of fun with it. The presentation is amazing. The The tone of the game is amazing. The combat's good, not great.
It's as good as it needs to be.
But the story is very charming. The story's awesome. The character, I think Kenna, whatever the hell she's called, is a great character. She's going to live.
She calls herself Kana.
Right,
so
Kana.
I'm going with that. I'm going to assume she knows how to pronounce her own name.
I don't know.
But everybody, all the other characters say it different a lot of times.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great game, and it's made by a small independent team. And it's of all the indie games I played this year, this is the one I enjoyed the most. That's just the truth of the matter. I spend a lot of time playing indie games throughout the course of the year, but I will be honest with you, and a lot of times I play them for an hour and I quit. Because I'm like, oh, that seems like a cool concept, and I play it, and I'm like, it's kind of a cool concept.
Yeah, like I get it,
and I get it, and I move on.
Well, because a lot of the indie stuff, it's like they got the one good idea, and they build it around that, and it's really cool. But once you get that, it's like playing on like an old school arcade game. It's like, I get it. I know there's like 256 levels of Pac-Man, but I got it after 3.
I understand what Pac-Man is now. Yeah. That's the way a lot of indie games are for me. This game, I enjoyed it to the last minute. And I think, this is a studio to keep an eye on here in the near future. I think a smart platform holder would probably snatch them up. Did that happen, actually? Did Sony buy them?
I don't think so, but they should.
Somebody should. Look at what they did with their small team. It's pretty amazing. And again,
also because like Sony doesn't really have anybody making like a Zelda style thing.
Exactly.
Like they definitely pulled that off.
They used to have like a studio in Japan making like Dark Cloud and stuff like that, but those games have gone away.
These guys could make a great Dark Cloud.
They actually could.
That would be really good.
Yep, they actually could. And look, I will say I do feel like I'm cheating maybe a little bit. Like
I don't think so.
Because there's just it's an indie award, and I do feel like I want to reward the studios that are taking risks and trying something new.
I think making something of that fidelity is a risk.
But at the heart of these awards for me, it's like what you said earlier. It's like, what did I enjoy? And this is the indie game I enjoyed the most.
Kena was definitely like number 2, number 3 for me.
Yeah.
No question.
It's a great game. If you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend it. I wonder if that'll be coming to other platforms too. I doubt it, but who knows? Okay, it's time to move on. Next up, Best Action Adventure. I say this every year at our Game of the Year awards, but this used to be the biggest genre in the industry, and now it's turned into something that we're lucky to be able to give awards to each year. Although this year, it was like overloaded. We both picked the same game for this one, and that game is Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I know some people are going to sit there and say, wait, isn't Ratchet & Clank a platformer? An argument can definitely be made that
I'm one of them.
That it's a platformer. But it's all over the place on the internet. Some sites call it action adventure. Some call it platformer. Because the gunplay in this is so prevalent, that's why I've decided to slot it into action adventure this year. Most platformers, the general goal is just get from point A to point B, and most of them don't even have combat for the most part. This game is pretty combat driven and less jumpy driven. There are sections, the literally on rail sections, where you surf on rails that get you from point A to point B a lot more than a Mario game where you're literally jumping the whole way from point A to point B. The most of the time I spent playing this game, I was shooting. Was that the case for you too?
I would say it's about even. Like, I definitely think of this as a platformer. Like, it would never occur to me to not call it a platformer.
Like, traditionally,
it's also a third-person shooter a lot of the time.
Right.
But the Ratchet games are the least platformer of the 3 Sony platformers of the time. The PS2, Jack and this, and Sly. But I still think of it as a platformer. So does Wikipedia, for that matter. So that was all I needed. I mean, platformer was actually a shockingly crowded genre this year.
Was.
So, moving it out of platformer lets us give some love to another game that also deserves it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did not think action adventure was particularly crowded. My pick, because originally my pick on this was Guardians of the Galaxy.
There's another one too.
And
there's Resident Evil Village.
And I wasn't really in my running. I mean, that's definitely
it was for me. But, it was a hard decision to make for me, man, because I love all 3 of those games. I love this game, I love Guardians of the Galaxy, and I love Resident Evil Village. And this was maybe the hardest award for me, other than maybe Game of the Year.
This one actually was hard for me because originally I was not counting Ratchet in it, and I had to find an action adventure I liked a lot, and I've settled on Guardians. But this was definitely the weakest category for me of the major categories.
Wow, completely opposite for me. I thought it was a great year.
I
for
mean,
the
obviously,
action
if
adventure.
you're going to count Ratchet, and it is one of the strongest categories because it had a great game in it. But
Yeah.
like originally, I was like, this is Guardians, and that's about it, really.
Did you play Village? Did you ever play it?
Yeah.
Oh, you did play it.
I played enough to get. I got past Big Bad Vampire Mommy, and I think that
Like
whatever
the first chase sequence or whatever.
No, I killed her.
Oh, you killed her. Okay.
And then I did the boss stuff. The werewolf guys, the beast guys, and I just never quite went back to it. I didn't dislike it, but it just didn't. It was cool, but all in all, I'd rather just play Resident Evil 4 again.
Okay.
But not in VR.
I thought this category was really hard for me to decide on because I do love all three of those games. And for me, playing Ratchet and Clank, literally, I think 70% of my time is shooting in this game. Like, I don't know where you're getting all the platforming from.
Because I'm looking for a lot more hidden shit.
Oh, maybe. I mean, I do understand the old Ratchet games. There was a better balance. There was, like, hardcore platforming sections in the old Ratchet games. But there was really none of that in this. Like,
there is if you're trying to get the bolts and all the things.
I felt like the platforming was just a means to an end in this game and not the crux of the game. Like, I was just using the weapons and the gadgets constantly, and the jumping part of it was...
I mean, it's still a platformer.
But like I said, there's an argument that can be made for either one. And it just, for this year, we ended up slotting it into action-adventure. And we both agree that Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is the best in that genre for 2021. Next up, the category that crossed over with action-adventure this year, Best Platformer. And again, we agree on the winner for this, and that is Psychonauts 2. Amazing game. It's almost, I mean, I realize we haven't got to a category yet, but it's almost a shame that it took until now to bring this game up in our Game of the Year award discussion. I will say this, Matt. This is one of those games that as I started pondering things for Game of the Year, it kept rising to the top in different categories. Like when I started thinking about all the games I had played throughout the year, like as the awards kept coming and I kept having to make picks, I found myself considering this game in a lot of categories I didn't think at first I might. It's a great game. It's
even in the running for best graphics in the end. There's some stuff in here that's like really...
Yes, it is.
Really shocking. I mean, and some of it's not necessarily pretty. Like
it's not technically.
Not technically, but some of it's not pretty in the sense of the design. Like the first world where all the disgusting dental imagery is like it's not pleasant, but it's extraordinarily well realized. Like you can smell the dried saliva on some of those teeth. Like it's really well done.
Now this game is a platformer.
Oh,
it
yeah,
is
through
platforming like 80-85% of the time, which is why I felt like I think this game as a juxtaposition to Ratchet and Clank, I was like, Psychonauts is the platformer. Ratchet and Clank is something else. They're not the same.
But they're in the same genre. They're just focusing on different things. And there is shooting in this. It's just not very good.
It's not very good, and I don't hardly remember ever using it.
It's not a focus on it.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a gating mechanism.
Yeah. I mean, this is a get from point A to point B game while jumping, pretty much. It is a more true, I think, representation of the 3D platformer. The creativity, and we're going to end up having to talk about this game again, so I don't want to beleaguer it here. The creativity in this game, again, I say this about Nintendo games a lot of times. Like, one level of this has all the creativity of, like, entire other games.
Yeah.
The people that worked on this are just different.
They
just are.
I mean, It Takes Two is a great platformer, but it ain't doing this.
Well, I will say this, Matt. It Takes Two in its latter stages starts to butt up against this.
But this one starts there.
Like, that was my runner-up, It Takes Two, for this category, Psychonauts 2. But at the end, Psychonauts 2... I feel like this is a game that we're going to be talking about for a long time. Whether it did okay in sales, I really have no idea. But I do think probably not everyone has played it, and everybody should play it. And again, get it on Game Pass. Just get Game Pass for this month. Seriously. Play Halo Infinite Campaign. Play a little bit of the multiplayer. Play Psychonauts 2. Play Age of Empires 4. Play Forza Horizon 5. That's the best $13 you ever spent in your life. Literally. Like the best $13 you ever spent in your life. But anyway, unanimous, at least between Matt and I, best platformer 2021, Psychonauts 2. Next up, another category where Matt and I agree on the winner, and I think the whole world will agree on this winner.
I don't know where else you are on this.
Best driving game of 2021 is Forza Horizon 5.
What else came out?
Actually, that's a good question. I didn't even need to look.
No.
Because I can't imagine any game being better than... Like, this is one of the best driving games I've ever played. So I struggled to even think, like, what other franchise could even really compete?
Really just cheat Gran Turismo.
Yeah, and it's not out till next year.
Yeah.
So...
there are Need for Speeds in the past that I would rank in the same echelon.
Yeah.
But, like, they haven't made one of those in a very long time.
I mean, let's just be honest. This is probably the greatest arcade-style driving game of all time.
Yeah.
It is.
And they kind of do that every time they put one of these out.
And Forza Horizon 4 had that title before this one. So they didn't sleep. They didn't slack.
There's no way it would ever happen, but I would pay obscene prices and do obscene things to see this team make a Need for Speed Underground remake.
That would be awesome. And it'll never happen.
Nope.
It'll never, ever happen, unfortunately. It is really that good, people. I know we've been talking it up here for, like a month and a half now, and we talked up Forza Horizon 4 when it came out. And if you've never tried these things, like, we're not blowing smoke up your ass.
No, and they've done some new stuff where Kevin Ruffus is better than Burnout Paradise. I hate Burnout Paradise, so yes, it's much better than Burnout Paradise.
GS Gear says Hot Wheels robbed. Actually, Hot Wheels...
Yeah.
It was better than I thought. We talked about it here on the show. I was pleasantly surprised.
It's not even the best Hot Wheels Forza related thing. Like, Hot Wheels, Forza did Hot Wheels better than Hot Wheels.
It did. Yeah.
With their Hot Wheels expansion.
I think it was IGN that reviewed it, gave it like a 9 or point something.
Yeah, I saw that. It's okay. Like, I didn't see that watching and hearing you talk about it, but
Hot Wheels growing up and all that, but I didn't love them that much.
Yeah.
That was a little generous, but it is a decent game. I will give you that.
What I do love is this.
He's responding to us saying, like, is there anything else really worth even considering? He's right. Like, Hot Wheels was worth at least considering, but ultimately it doesn't.
Hot Wheels was a driving game released in 2021.
Yes. In that way, it was worth
considering. It is considered.
We could be dicks sometimes, but we love you guys, and you know that. So anyway, best driving game, runaway winner, Forza Horizon 5.
Yeah.
Next up.
Drive away winner.
Yep. A category that Matt decided that he was going to abstain from.
Because I haven't played anything.
He hadn't played anything. Somehow this year ended up being like a pretty good strategy year for me.
Yeah.
I ended up playing a few of them.
All the strategy stuff I played this year was old. Like the main strategy game I played this year was Stellaris.
Okay.
Which still has expansions coming out, but it came out like 3 years ago or something.
I think it's older than that. Stellaris?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it got revamped somewhere.
You're right. I think you're right. Yeah, they did kind of like reset it a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, but that game's really good, but it doesn't qualify for a 2021 game.
Yep.
Also, that's a 4X game. You actually need to watch video tutorials to understand how to do anything in at first.
Those space sim 4X games, I just stay away.
Like you almost have to. You pretty much had to. I pretty much had to take an online class to learn how to play Stellaris properly. It is, but once you're there. Like, it's one of the best story generators. It's sort of like Chivalry, or not Chivalry. The strategy medieval thing that takes you through. I can't remember the name. That has the
Civilization?
No, Crusader Kings.
Oh, Crusader Kings.
Crusader Kings.
That was my pick for last year.
Yeah, Crusader Kings 3 and 2, like where they kind of create the stories as you go. It's like almost a narrative-driven game, but it's all generated. Mm-hmm. Stellaris has that quality to it once you know what you're doing. So.
But not your winner.
Not my winner. Well, it would be if it came out this year,
right,
but it didn't.
Right. I actually struggled to pick a winner for this. It came down to 2 games for me. It came down to Age of Empires 4 and Humankind. They're 2 very similar games, but they both approach things from completely different directions. So, to me, Age of Empires 4 is, okay, we have this thing that people really like. Let's make this thing that people really like as good as humanly possible. And even in some ways, some people might consider it a step back because Age of Empires 3 actually did try to stretch the boundaries a little bit, and people rebelled.
Yeah, the home city thing didn't go over
People
well
didn't like it. And so they kind of dialed it back a little bit for Age of Empires 4, but what you're left with is probably, well, I don't know, Age of Empires 2 is pretty damn good. But maybe the best Age of Empires ever. But nothing that breaks ground. Humankind, on the other hand, did all kinds of new stuff. And the problem is that not all of it worked. And I have not gone back recently to see what they've patched and fixed, and maybe I should have. Because the core concepts of the game, I would have given the award to Humankind if it had actually pulled off a lot of the stuff that it tried to do. It didn't, though. But like the win conditions and the fact that you can jump eras like at will, so you're not locked into like this one civ. And it does make for some weird settlements because they can kind of run the gamut of all these different eras and societies, but it opened up Pandora's box a little bit for this genre. And so I hope that they'll keep working on Humankind and making it better and better. But I also hope that some other developers will take some inspiration from that game and try to create their own spin on it. But at the end of the day, the game I did have the most fun with was Age of Empires 4. And so it does get my Strategy Game of the Year award. I could understand people going in either direction. I could totally get why somebody would have chosen Humankind, because it is far more innovative and it is trying stuff new. Age of Empires almost intentionally goes backwards. But I think the fans are happy about that. So ultimately, Humankind was also a little broken. I came across a lot of bugs, and there's nothing more frustrating than playing a strategy game and like having the game crash or having a feature not work or break. Age of Empires 4 just worked. Everything it said it was going to do, it did, and then some. It was very streamlined as far as like learning how to play the game. Very intuitive in that way. Humankind, I fumbled around in the menus a little bit here and there. They're both great games, but Age of Empires 4 is probably the ultimate Age of Empires with a nod to Age of Empires 2. I'm surprised you didn't play either one of those this year, Matt.
Yeah, I just didn't.
Usually you're on that stuff more than I am.
I just didn't get around to them.
Yeah. Timing, just...
Yeah, there were other things happening those weeks. And then once we talk about them, it's kind of like...
yeah, then what? Yeah. You have to really want to play it then after we talk about it. Again, it's this weird mental thing that Matt and I go through doing a 3-hour podcast every week. So there you go. Best strategy game of 2021, Age of Empires 4. Next up, best gas. Best game as a service.
Live service.
This will be, and I'm just going to hint at it, you won't be able to remember last year. Or maybe some of you will if you have a photographic memory. This will be the first time I've ever given a Game of the Year award to the same game 2 years in a row in my entire career. First time it's ever happened. Right here, right now. Matt, what's your pick, however, for the best game as a service?
This is a little disingenuous, but Final Fantasy XIV.
Okay.
Because I haven't played a ton of it this year, and I have not played the expansion content everyone raves about because I haven't gotten there yet. And Walker or Shadowbringers or any. I just been kind of chipping away at it periodically over the course of the year. But I pick it for this because
you're still playing.
I do enjoy it, but the main thing is like I'd say half the people I know online and have known for years online as gaming friends, they're all playing this game now. And these are people that don't even like MMOs. Like the number of people I know who have picked this game up in the last year and have just gotten sucked into it and still play it. Like we had to create a separate channel for it in one of our Discord things because people were like clogging up the main channel with Final Fantasy XIV. I've never seen like a game come from behind, reinvent itself, and just like thrive like this one. Like it's just incredible. Like it's an incredible like story that this game has kind of turned itself into what it's become. So I give it that because I think as these live service things go, it seems to be delivering better than almost any other one, especially when it comes to the MMO space, like which is such a smaller thing than it used to be.
Matt, I haven't heard this much buzz about an MMORPG in I don't know how long.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Amazon's game, New World, which blasted off into the stratosphere and came back down to Earth like 2 days later. Mm-hmm. But that was just a flash in the pan. Final Fantasy XIV has been consistent for like 2 years. Like it's the only MMORPG I hear people talk. I can't tell you the last time I heard someone talk about World of Warcraft.
Yeah, and it's like you have to play this thing. Like it's
and I still won't. But
yeah, I won't.
I just hate MMORPGs until somebody can direct me to one where the combat feels good, and I've heard that a million times, and it always ends up being a lie.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't feel bad, but it's not gonna like. It's not
still
the reason
probably
to play
clunky.
It.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, it's. It's that turn-based sort of. I mean, I guess the closest thing is sort of. It's a little Phantasy Star Online-ish. It's not as action
That's
oriented.
okay. I can kind of deal with that.
But like you're hitting the button and what you've done doesn't quite translate into the action you take, but it feels like your every button press does a thing rather than hit thing and auto move.
Right.
It's not like that. It is press button, get one action. And then you got to find a rotation that you run through and then use the right thing to boost your stuff back in.
Like a lot of MMOs in the combat, I don't even look at what's happening in the combat. I just look at the interface, and I'm just like timing like
you
the
do need to
cooldowns.
see like range on things and kind of where the attacks are coming from. You know, it's not unlike maybe Tales of Arise in that regard. So positioning matters. But I would say if you can get through Phantasy Star Online, you could play Final Fantasy 14 well enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as clunky. It still does feel clunky, but not in the way that, like, say, a Warcraft or a Secret World does.
Yeah.
Or SWTOR, which I still play.
Yeah.
Which is still getting another expansion.
Secret World. Wow, that's a blast from the past.
I like Secret World. It's a bad game, but I just love what they're after. Like that weird, like everything, it's that X-Files-y sort of every weird, like supernatural conspiracy is true, and like Lovecraft stuff's over here, and rising mummies are over here, and it's fun. And I constantly worry that it's going to shut down any day because it just feels like that game shouldn't still exist.
Smoke them if you got them, as they say.
Yeah,
I hear you. Okay, my pick, and I hinted at it already, and actually I did see somebody in chat, they did guess it. My pick for best game as a service for 2021 is Apex Legends. And I just want to show you something here on SIFTD, actually, that I was kind of waffling between this and a couple other games, and then I went to Apex Legends game page on SIFTD. And I'm just going to bring it up so you guys can see it here. And this game has been out since 2019. It's obviously 2021. It's actually been out now for like 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And I just want to show you how much content for this old-ass game we have curated in the last year to just show you. This is game as a service, ongoing game that continues. And let me just show you. It just keeps going and going and going and going and going.
You remember when they didn't do anything for like months in the beginning?
And going. This is all this year still, people. This is all this year. We're only at February 2021 right now. Look at this. Okay, now we're in January. There we are, January 4th. All that content is from this year for Apex Legends.
Like early on, there was a period where like 4 months would go by with no updates for that game. They turned it around.
Dude, Respawn is killing it, man. They are killing it with this game, and I love it. It's my favorite of all the Battle Royale games to play. The content keeps coming steady. As Matt said, they had a rough patch kind of at first there.
They figured it out.
But since then, yes, it's incredible what they've done with this game. It's the best game as a service. I just think it is. Like, I can understand where someone who doesn't like shooters would be like, well, I want to pick something else. I totally get Matt. You would rather play Final Fantasy 14. But if you're into these type of games and you don't hate first-person shooters, Apex Legends is the best game as a service until someone knocks it off.
I mean, as someone who doesn't care about that in the sense that, like, I just don't want to do the same. I don't want to play matches over and over again.
Right.
Because it just feels like repeating the same thing over and over again. I want to be told a story, basically, which is what Final Fantasy 14
I totally understand
but
your perspective.
I can't think of an online shooter that feels better than Apex Legends.
It does feel great, but that doesn't surprise me either.
No, that's Respawn.
Because it's from the guys who created Call of Duty, basically. Right. And
guys
love it or hate it, the combat in Call of Duty feels good.
Yeah.
The guns feel
ones,
great.
The old Infinity Wards.
Even the new ones, the guns still usually feel pretty good.
But they're not on par with Titanfall 2.
No, I'd agree with that.
Respawn is some dark magic over there.
Well, I mean, they have their code, so they had to leave that code behind. So they know how to program like guns to make them feel the way that.
But the fact that they pulled Titanfall out of the Source engine is just
it's
ridiculous.
Insane. It really is. It really is. So anyway, to me, Apex Legends, it's the reigning champ of the game as a service. It's the reigning champ of the Battle Royale.
I mean, I think between our two picks, you have certainly the cream of both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I think we've hit everybody with these two picks as well. I hope you guys enjoy Apex Legends as much as I do. I wish I had more time to play it, honestly. But we always got to keep moving on to the next. Yeah. And Kevin Roth says, how is it better than Fortnite? The gunplay feels way freaking better. And that's what you do. It's like, that's what you do. That when you play these games, it's all about the gunplay. I feel like Fortnite feels, it has never felt good to me.
No, I wouldn't I wouldn't say so, but it's like Fortnite's more of the experience than the gameplay.
Yeah. Fortnite's goofy in an entertainment kind of way.
Goofy and accessible, and like you feel like you can have fun whether no matter how good or bad you do.
Yeah.
Apex Legends is a much more competitive. Like
it's more serious.
It's more esportsy, I guess, in a sense. Except Fortnite also kind of runs that barter town too.
Yeah.
So
I just enjoy playing Apex Legends way more. I feel like Fortnite, it's like kind of a little loosey goosey to me, a little too cartoony, but I don't disrespect anyone who plays Fortnite. If you like it, that's awesome. But for me, my ongoing game of the year for 2021, Apex Legends. All right, let's move on. Next up, best story in a game. And once again, Matt, you and I chose the same winner. Mm-hmm. And this is what I was talking about earlier. And that winner is Psychonauts 2. Yep.
I mean,
hard to believe that a 3D platformer has the best story of 2021, but it does.
But then when you know it's Double Fine, it's not that hard to believe. It makes more sense
because they've made great adventure games in the past. And yeah, they're very well versed in creating great stories.
The pedigree is unmatched with these guys,
and it's a great freaking story. And like you don't even have to remember hardly anything from the first game.
But if you do, it will help.
It's even better.
And also the fact that they were able to follow that game up and do it justice all these years later is ridiculous.
Yeah,
like being able, and I said that back when I saw the demo they did at E3 2019, was like, I don't have any doubts about this game anymore because that first teeth world, like intro that they basically played the whole thing with like 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, the tone is right, the humor is right, the characters are right. They did it. They just like, it's like somebody flipped a switch in the Double Fine office that just said Psychonauts mode to go. And they just nailed it again.
Or it's just also,
and that doesn't happen every time, especially with something that has the verve and the personality of Psychonauts. Like, it is real easy to blow a second installment on that. In fact, that's kind of what I'm sitting here like. I'm sitting here, nervously holding on for that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse sequel next year.
Right.
Like, I don't know. it looks like they nailed it. That like teaser they put out looked really good.
Yeah.
But like, it's just like that thing where it's like once you love this thing that has this unique energy to it, you're like, can they do it again?
Well, you also become vulnerable.
And Double Fine did it again.
Yeah.
They just they made it look easy.
There's so many crazy scenarios in this game that are well maintained narratively. Mm-hmm. Like there's the whole rock show towards the end of the game. Like
this is like, if I was going to like teach like some kind of like media literacy or like literature in games thing in like a college course, I would want to use this game as like, analyze how this game gets you to just instantly and instinctually accept completely absurd things. Like things happen in this game that are part of they're not even like events that like are unique to what's happening in the story. There are elements of the world that are just bonkers, and you just go with it, and like everyone just goes. It's like you just because I don't know the answer to that. I really want to know, like, someone to analyze, like, what is it about this game that makes it so easy to just take this world in and say, like, yep, sure,
it makes total sense.
I'm in with that. I'm down.
Yep.
Like it just does. It just works.
Yeah.
It's like there's that is a rare talent in any medium, let alone games. And Double Fine has it in almost everything they make.
Yep.
I mean, they made a whole game about escaping a train station as a stack doll. I mean, like, you want to talk about ideas that shouldn't work, but then they make them anyway.
Yeah.
Although I guess stacking wasn't received quite as well.
I would also argue that this was not a great year for stories in video games.
No, I don't think it was. It was basically this and Guardians were the two really well written.
Life is Strange: True Colors was another one for me. The story in that's really good, and there's a couple twists in there that most people won't see coming.
Yeah, the writing was good. I have my issues with some of not even the performances in True Colors.
The casting's
okay. The casting's okay. I don't like the dialogue editing in that game. I think everyone talks too slow. And I don't mean the delivery of the lines is too slow. I don't think the dialogue is edited on top of each other. The lines are edited. I think everyone waits too long between lines to speak. And that's not a performance thing. That's a dialogue editing thing.
That's a decision made by the developers. Yeah, absolutely.
That was my issue with that game. I was like, no one talks like that. Like, just go. Like, have a conversation already.
Well, it's just like if you're a video editor and someone hands you a bunch of voiceover. Mm-hmm. if you're inexperienced, you don't really understand how to chop that up to make it sound conversational and to keep it moving.
You put it all on top of itself. So it's
Right.
like the opposite problem here where they spread
Right.
it out too much. And I don't know if that's a tech problem, like you can't make the character models interact that fast.
I think it's an ability. It's a skill to be able to do it.
I would call it a skill. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know that it's something that you can really learn. You can get better at it for sure.
Get better at it, but like there's people that have an ear
junior
for it, people
editors,
that
junior
don't.
video editors, that is one of the things that takes the longest time for them to get good at.
And it's one of the things that like I certainly remember like the editors that became our preferred editors that we wanted to take with us to everything and keep with us at all costs on the old show was like they were the ones that instinctively knew.
They knew how to do it.
They just knew.
Because the other part of it too is if an editor can't do it, it's so tedious trying to fix it. And so you're like looking
I think
for
you
that.
and I are thinking of some of the same people
I think we definitely
in the old Tech
are.
TV days.
Yep. No names though. So anyway, Psychonauts 2, best story in a year of not really strong stories, I would fully agree or fully admit to. But the story in Psychonauts 2 is still great.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you played the first one or not, it's deserving of the award. So congratulations to Double Fine again.
But you should play the first one.
You should. Yeah, absolutely. You
They're
can get it for
both
like
excellent.
$1 at this point.
I think they're all both
probably.
on Game Pass.
Oh, yeah, they are. Yep, that's true. Okay, up next. This is a fun category. This is Future Legend. This is a game that came out this year that we think will still have a huge impact and people will be talking about it years and years from now. People will look back and be like, hey, remember that, blah, 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 blah. And generally the game has to do something that makes an impact that will reverberate out for many years, or it has a concept maybe that we feel is going to be copied for years to come. That's what we're going for with this category. So Matt, what is your Future Legend for 2021?
That would be the Matrix Awakens demo. Because I think people are going to point to that as like the moment. It's going to be the next gen moment. It's going to be the moment that, like you said, the page was turned, and people are going to remember the first time they saw that thing. Because in 5 years, everything's going to look like that, and they're going to be like, "Wow, that was the start.
Yeah,
that was the Unreal Engine 5 debut." I mean, we already saw that one demo, but this is the first time that everybody could just get their hands on this. Because like, if you showed someone this when this thing ran, you're like, "What? Like, what is it?" And like, go download it now. Just go play it now.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Like, you can just, and there it is.
Well, I
like,
can show this to my mom, and she would just think it's a movie trailer.
Yeah,
she
absolutely.
wouldn't think it's a video game at all.
I showed this to video editors who thought this, not this, but like shots from that people taking, and they thought it was drone footage.
Yeah, I could see that. Totally.
Even with pedestrians walking around, like it looks like kind of HDR. It looks like it's been post produced.
Yeah,
but like. Yeah, like
it's pretty amazing.
You take the close-ups of the actors' faces out, and it's very hard to tell.
Yep.
The only way to tell is really that it looks too good.
Again, it's what
No
you said
city's that
earlier. It's the
clean.
human faces. Their faces are too smooth and clean. There's no blemishes on them.
Yeah, they're trying. I mean, there's stubble and stuff. It's just there's something off.
Yeah,
and they're moving
it's
a little too stiff.
Uncanny Valley. That's what it is.
They're moving a little too stiff. They're moving a little too. Yeah, it's. But like the rest of it,
it's just amazing.
It's really good.
It really is amazing. Yep. So that's a good pick. And then Matt, I actually made my pick for pretty much the same reason you did. I just chose a different product, and my pick for Future Legend is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And the reason I picked it is because for me, and I think for a lot of people who have played it or will eventually play it, this for me is when next gen started.
Yeah, I mean this is the same thing except for like Pixar
Playable,
movie, like
right.
CG playable CG film.
Right.
You know, it's this is like for cartoon and Matrix Awakens is for live action basically.
This was the moment I realized, okay, $550 for this console was worth it. Because I was seriously, Matt, I really thought at a certain point there, like the law of diminishing returns was going to keep me from getting my mind blown.
No, I knew that was coming. It's just I've said since the beginning, the systems shouldn't have come out till this fall.
Yeah,
they should have. I mean, maybe not business wise, but in terms of like what games were ready to show this thing off as the day it came out. You know, imagine if it had launched with Spider-Man and Miles Morales and this and Demon's Souls and Returnal and you know, if all that stuff had just been piled up in a launch window of like a month. Like that would have been a very different experience. Yeah.
But that's the reason why they don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, no, this is very, I mean, look, like even all these months later, it's hard.
Stunning.
It's hard not to try to reach out and pet him.
I mean,
or
it's
to
insane,
touch the grass there. Like
just the stuff that's going on
texture,
in this.
The texture of the world is incredible. I don't mean the textures in terms of
I get it.
I mean like the way everything looks like it would feel a certain way.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I just think a lot of developers are going to be playing catch up to this game for like the next couple years.
that's Insomniac in a nutshell, isn't it?
But I will say this, you're right. But I will say this, like to me, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League is very close.
Yeah, I mean it's got that same quality.
And that's
to
why
it.
I was surprised you weren't at least a little bit excited for it.
I don't care about graphics.
But I will say this:
if you don't support it with something I want to play, I don't care.
Yeah.
I think if this was like Crash,
if this
was a Crash Bandicoot, it could go fuck itself.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna play it just because Crash's fur looks good.
Yeah, I will say this though: this still looks better.
Than Suicide Squad. Yeah, so far. I mean, we'll see what Suicide Squad ended up.
It could round into form later on.
Yeah.
But as of right now, this game still looks better than that.
But
so,
again, this does have the advantage of using cartoon, more like anthropomorphic animals versus
it's an advantage for sure.
Ratchet is a lot easier for my eyes to believe as a living creature than Captain Boomerang because Captain Boomerang looks like a person.
It's true. Yep, no doubt about it.
So there is a degree of difficulty there, but yes, Ratchet still looks better, I think.
Yep. So there you go. Future Legends. For Matt, it's the Matrix Awakens demo. For Unreal Engine 5, and for me, it's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. We're starting to get into some of the fun categories now. Next one is Most Pleasant Surprise. This actually was also another really hard one for me. This category, usually I'm like scraping. I'm like, because this isn't something that like you can search for or whatever.
Right.
You just got to dig and figure it out.
You just have to remember your reactions to
things.
and
what you played. And so Most Pleasant Surprise is a game that we didn't expect to have the impact that it did. And Matt, what is your pick?
My pick is a pretty recent one, Chorus.
Yeah.
This game was obviously always on my radar because I like space stuff, but I was not expecting it to be as good as it is.
Yep.
It was just that nice feeling of like loading it up and starting to play it. And the dialogue is pretty clunky, and the world is interesting, but the story runs out of steam pretty fast. You're just playing to play it and see the graphics and see the, blow stuff up and upgrade things, see the new areas, and kind of see where the world goes. Because the world is very interesting. The characters are not so much.
Yeah.
Most of the time, but it was just nice to play something where like, at no point did it disappoint me. Like I was just like, well, it would be nice if you could do that. Oh, you can do that. Okay, like, well, I wish there was another area. Oh, there are other areas. Like it just never. Every time I was like hoping, like, oh, I hope there's some kind of thing like this. There was, and it plays real well. It's. I
told you this before we went on. We went live, but somebody replied to the show on YouTube and said that they bought Chorus because of you, because of what you said about it in last week's show. So
well, good. I mean, more people should know about it.
Yep.
I mean, there were a lot of great. It Takes Two would have been a valid choice here. If Chorus hadn't come out, that probably would have been my choice.
Yeah.
Because I was not expecting that game to be that good either.
Well, this game's right in your wheelhouse too.
But this is
one of your favorite genres, and
It Takes Two doesn't let me fly through an asteroid field, so it's inherently at a disadvantage.
Fair enough. So as I said, this was a really hard category for me because, so as Matt just said, It Takes Two, pleasant surprise. Guardians of the Galaxy, very pleasant surprise, and that's my winner. But then there's also Riders Republic, which was a gigantic surprise to me. One of the best extreme sports games I've ever played. I didn't expect that. But ultimately, Guardians of the Galaxy was the winner for me. I'm really surprised you didn't pick it, Matt. I mean, I know Chorus is like one of your favorite genres and everything, but like I don't feel like anyone saw this coming from Guardians of the Galaxy, especially after Marvel's Avengers. Like, everyone was just like, oh, God. Like, I was almost afraid of this game after what Square Enix did with Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely thought it was going to... It didn't shock me quite as much because when seeing the E3 demo, I kind of got my head... Okay, so they're making an actual game. Yeah. They're not making some weird live service thing. They were building on some of what Avengers did in terms of, I think, some of the combat, I think. But, like, they were doing a very different thing with it. And they, I think the most surprising thing to me was how well they nailed all the characters. They made new versions of everybody, but they felt like themselves still.
If the game feels like Guardians of the Galaxy, that's hard.
Yeah.
That's really one of the hardest things about taking an IP and bringing it into video games is getting the tone right, and they nail it. Like, especially with something as quirky and unique as Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, it's just... I was shocked. I'm very glad that there were so many pleasant surprises this year because this year needed it, Matt. Because all the not so surprising, awesome games ended up getting delayed out of the year.
Yeah, and if you just had a bunch of bleh,
right?
It would have been basic. It would have
been
been
a rough year.
It would have been a parade of like really high quality indie stuff.
Yeah.
But all the AAA stuff would have just been like, bleh.
Yeah.
And it almost was.
Yeah.
At times this year it was that. It was like, thank God for this game I never heard of before, because otherwise I'd have nothing to play for this month. But
yeah. And the reason I chose this game over Riders Republic and over It Takes Two is because of the IP. Because it's got, like, the films have some kind of a special sauce to them. Like, that's why it went from an IP that nobody knew or had heard of into, like, a phenomenon with the first film.
Like I said, when they announced that movie, been reading Marvel Comics since 1979. I had to look up what the Guardians of the Galaxy was.
And so people haven't worked with this IP a long time, and somehow in this game, they just nail it.
And they nailed it better than the Telltale game did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The Telltale game came off as, like, dry almost to me.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
And again, Telltale games started strong and then just petered out.
Yeah.
You know, there's nowhere else to go but down, really, if you kill Thanos in the first episode. But, it just didn't quite. It kind of devolved into a standard action adventure, and this never forgets who they are.
Yep,
which is great.
It's really good. Like, again, if you can find that on a discount over the holidays,
sounds like you will.
Probably,
over Thanksgiving it dropped like a rock.
Yep.
It was like $25 some places.
Worth every freaking penny.
For sure.
Yep. Lots of pleasant surprises this year. It's good to see, and hopefully we get more in 2022. Next up, another fun category: most disappointing game. Now, let's just...
This is one of the easiest picks on the entire list for me.
Now, let's rewind here a second before we give you our picks. We want to explain how this category works. This isn't worst game. We're getting to that. This isn't like the worst game of the year. This is a game that we were really excited for and had a lot of hype for. And then ultimately, when we played it, it fell way short. That's what most disappointing game is. It's not just the worst game that we played this year. But again, we'll get to that one. Matt, what is your pick for most disappointing game? I have a feeling everyone's going to guess this one, but go ahead.
El Guapo already guessed it. It is Metroid Dread.
Yep.
If you'd gone back to the beginning of the year and told me that I was gonna not actually really like the Metroid sequel I'd been waiting for however long, how long was Fusion? Like 16 years, 17 years ago?
Yeah,
something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe
16. Yeah.
Well, if you told me that, I'd probably be like, well, that sounds about on par for the last couple of years. But in reality, yeah, it's I don't agree with a lot of the things they did in this game. It didn't, and it's not like it's bad. Like, it's good.
No, it's not bad.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
But a Metroid game not being great is a tragedy to me, especially when they finally make a console play on my TV 2D honest to God Metroid 5, and I didn't like it very much.
Yeah.
And it's just...
Matt, my big issue with the game is it just doesn't feel like a Metroid game to me. Parts of it do, but parts of it isn't good enough.
Yeah.
The tone of a Metroid game needs to stay consistent. And I feel like it jumps all over the place because of the things that they added that, in all honesty, I feel like made it worse.
Yeah, so but a lot of it just doesn't...
There are some times where I'm okay with them not messing with stuff.
Yeah.
When you don't get a new game in like 16 years, every time, if it takes 16 years to get a new game, you don't have to reinvent it ever.
And the Emmy stuff is bad. I don't like any of that. It's mostly because it doesn't evolve.
Yeah.
And one shot kill stealth sequences, nothing needs that, least of all Metroid. And beyond that, just little things like quality of life things where it's like, one of the things I love about Metroid games and just Metroidvanias in general is once you get upgraded enough, you can sort of fly through the map. You can sort of run through stuff and you've dealt with stuff. You can handle enemies that used to be a problem real easy.
Yep.
And this doesn't let you do that because you still have to, even when you open doors, you have to reopen those doors with these. You gotta stop and you got to do the stealth thing and walk through the. There's no flow. There's the flow never happens.
It doesn't feel like a Metroid game to me. Parts of it do.
Yeah, it's funny because people blame that on Mercury Steam to some degree, but Mercury Steam nailed it in the Metroid 2 remake. You could do that in the Metroid 2 remake. This is clearly more influenced by Metroid 2 in terms of design. Where Metroid 2 does have more of that.
Well, it has the counter move
counter move, but I also mean just in going back to the original Game Boy one, where Metroid 2 feels a little different. It was not, you had to cram it on the Game Boy, so you had to. It was more of an exploration thing in terms of find these 30 Metroids and it was not like a sprawling thing as much and and they kind of have that here where it's there's the centerpiece of each area is the Emmy as opposed to sort of the exploration itself and the they're gonna slow you down here and make you go through that, and the bosses are gonna be hard as nails, and like they should be, but like then we're gonna repeat them 4 to 5 times. Yeah. By the end of the game, I was just like, just don't make me fight another one of those damn robo chozos, because like I've done that 12 times or something by now, and they're all the same guy. Like, it's like I don't. They've got 2 different weapons, sure, but it's just like I've done that boss fight too many times already, and that's not a thing. Bad enough that Metroid Prime makes it backtrack all the time, but like backtracking used to be fun in Metroid games because you could just fly through stuff, and this one doesn't let you do that.
It gives you a feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah,
you're like, I cleared all this out. Now I can just
I had to fight my way room to room through this, and now I can just burn.
I earned it.
Yeah.
I agree with you, man. It lost the tone.
So not bad, not a bad game, but definitely.
Believe me, that was my second pick. Mm-hmm. My pick for most disappointing game of 2021 is Battlefield 2042. I don't understand, Matt, how you go from making Battlefields for like 15 or 20 years, and you get to this one and you deliver what they delivered. Mm-hmm. It's, how do you deliver a broken, after it was delayed twice at least? How do you deliver a broken game after making shooters exactly like this for almost 2 decades? Like, I don't get it.
Like I said, I think when we talked about it when it originally came out, like, it feels to me like Battlefield has spent all these years trying to catch up to itself. Like, every time you play Battlefield, you're hoping that it's going to recapture what you felt playing the Wake Island demo or Battlefield 2 or Bad Company 2, and it just never does.
I feel like it has an identity crisis.
It does.
Like, it doesn't know whether it wants to follow Call of Duty to try to make more money, or whether it wants to stay true to the heart of its franchise, which has made it also very lucrative. Not as lucrative as Call of Duty.
It seems to me like it would be smarter to try to do your own thing really well than to try to outdo Call of Duty.
It's EA getting greedy. And I think that's been part of the problem. Maybe the developers are caught in between. They're like, we're trying to do stuff that this franchise isn't
also,
about.
I feel like, over the last few years, certainly, like, there's been kind of a brain drain at DICE. Like, people have moved on to do other things. There's a lot of just you can count on more than one hand at this point the number of new game studios that are ex-DICE people.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
And it's like the exodus of that. A lot of other people gone over. The woman who directed Battlefront, and that, which was a huge success for them, went over to Media Molecule.
Yeah. We've talked in this.
And good. That's a better place for her, I'm sure.
We talked about it in this. We talked about it in our the Game Awards wrap-up about these studios that have ex-Battlefield guys. And now it's like, I'm wondering if that's even like something you want to advertise.
You're hitting a point where it's like, well, wait, which Battlefield?
Yeah, was that 2042 or was that like one of the 2 that were actually really good? It's just disappointing.
But I think you're also right that like it's probably just a bunch of people that are entirely talented and skilled enough to make a great Battlefield game, but they are hamstrung by the horrible decision making of the upper echelons of EA.
I just expect more from this franchise at this point. It's a veteran team that's been developing the same franchise for 2 decades.
Or on the flip side, I don't think I do expect anything of this series anymore. And I think that's increasingly their problem, is people just expect Battlefield to be sort of a mildly unsatisfying but like ambitious but not quite finished thing that comes out once a year or every other year.
Well, they used to have a campaign, and I always expected that to be terrible because they were terrible.
It was. You remember that one where they first started it, and like one of the missions was like a flying an F-18, but there was like an unskippable like 12-minute like takeoff sequence. Yeah. I think they added a way to skip it eventually, but like when it launched,
this in Battlefield?
And if you died, you'd watch it again.
I know. Yeah. So look, the series hasn't been perfect all along, but when you get to the point you've been working on that same thing for 20 years, like, it should never release broken. And part of that may be EA just cracking the whip and being like, you know what, we got to get it out.
And constant reinventing of the wheel. It's go back, make Bad Company again, just call it a day.
Make me a kick-ass 4K Battlefield game. Make it a platform and keep building on it.
Actually, you know what would do real well? Remaster Bad Company 2.
That would do it too. In 4K with modern tech, and then give me a good multiplayer mode, I'm good. But this franchise has lost its way. There's no reason it should be as broken as it is. It's still broken.
Yeah, give me Bad Company Gold. Just put remaster 1 and 2's campaigns and put Bad Company 2's multiplayer in there and let me go.
And the shame of it all is that it's one of the prettiest games of 2021.
Looks great.
It's gobsmacking in that
The weather
way.
effects are
as long
incredible.
as the skybox doesn't disappear.
Right, if it's not flickering at you
the problem
the whole
is
time.
it does.
Yeah.
Like, that's the problem.
That is really amazing.
It is. You can't get your skybox to stay up there? Anyway, that's why it's my most disappointing game of 2021.
Also, Guapo brought up Biomutant, which is another good.
My expectations for that, again, going back to what we said at the beginning, it's all about where your expectations were versus where the game ended up.
Yeah.
So if you had high expectations for that game, I could see where it might be.
Yeah, I don't know if I have high expectations for it, but I had a lot of hope for it.
Yeah.
And
I was rooting for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was hoping it was going to be really good.
It was disappointing in a different way.
I still played it all the way through and finished it.
I did not finish it, but I did play it a fair amount. I just kept waiting. I really tried. I really wanted to like it.
Turned over.
I did go back to that after we talked about it on the show. I kept trying, and it just never. Yeah, you're right. It never turned over. It was a constant. It was like trying to start an engine for 30 hours. And it just kept going. And you're like, maybe if I do it like this, maybe I try to
pump the gas,
and it just never happened.
Never did. Yeah. I still haven't finished it for some reason. Okay, next up, biggest news story of 2021. Matt, what's your pick? I got them reversed.
I think you
here,
swapped
actually.
them. Yeah. So mine is Activision and Blizzard are full of horrible, abusive sex pest weirdos.
I hate to laugh.
And so is probably the rest of the industry, but we were really talking about that allegedly.
Allegedly, reportedly.
But yeah, that was definitely the biggest story, I would say, because it filtered out into the mainstream press.
It absolutely did.
And there are a lot of people
been going on for a long time now.
Oh yeah, and it's finally coming to light. But like, and you can see, quietly, you can see the rats at the other companies like trying to scramble to cover things up before they get exposed. Which is good because that'll, a little proactive movement on that is.
Well, I mean,
good.
look, whatever it
takes to get you there,
to get them to act the way they should be acting. Right. I'm okay with it.
But like, the big part of it, to me, the big part is like that, and maybe good things will come out, improvements will come out of it. That's good, and the fact people are finally telling their stories after going through all this shit that no one should have to go through in a professional setting or any setting for that matter. Like, stop being abusive weirdos, people.
Yeah.
But also just the fact that this is like, because of this is one of the faces that the industry has shown the world. Shown the world through the mainstream press, the mainstream reporting. Like, there are people who only know, like, I know people, not my mom, but people on my parents' age. They only know Blizzard because Blizzard's where all that horrible sex abuse stuff happened.
Yeah.
That's your brand now.
Yeah, I mean,
which is one of the reasons I continually say that Blizzard is done as a brand, because the world at large associates this story with the Blizzard name.
That's true.
And one of the things you can do to clean that up in the public at large sphere is to remove the Blizzard name, and people won't necessarily make the connection between Blizzard and Activision.
Yeah.
And that's shady and shitty, but it is something that a corporation will do.
Welcome to reality. Shady and shitty.
Welcome to Kodakville.
Okay, my biggest news story, and I did pick something different, is the Generation 9 is still freaking sold out.
Yeah, I mean, this ties in also with the fact that the entire world is in a supply chain crisis,
crunch,
which is absolutely one of the biggest stories in the world. Yeah,
all of it.
Yeah. There's a cream cheese shortage. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
There's a cream cheese shortage. Like, you can't get cream cheese in places in New York.
Really?
Bagels are going without cream cheese. It's a tragedy, national tragedy. There are people offering each other like weird different forms of. Someone offered me like spreadable Hocken cheese on my bagel. I'm like, that sounds pretty good, actually.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. So last night I had kind of settled in on Activision Blizzard as well. I think either one of these stories, totally viable picks. And then
they said, my mind said they've asked not to make cheesecake for Christmas.
Yeah.
Go back to 2018 and try to explain that sentence to yourself.
I know. It's insane. It really is. We're living it. We've just been conditioned to it at this point.
Yep.
I think either of those stories are good picks. But last night I was kind of waffling on it, and one of my buddies, my more casual gamer buddies, texts me, and he's like, so PS5 and Xbox, and he misspelled Series X or whatever, are $1,000, right? And I was like,
together, yeah.
I was like, no. I'm like, they're $499, and he goes, no. He just wrote back, no, and I was like, who are you talking to, dude?
Yeah.
Like, think about who you're talking to. And I was like, yes. And he's like, where can you get? So he goes, send me a link where I can buy one for $500.
Well, that's different.
And I was I was like, that's different. I'm like, because I can't. There's no place to buy them. So I sent him to PlayStation's official site where he can order one and get placed on a waiting list, basically, and he'll eventually get one. But that just showed me my casual bro texting me, and he's like, he still didn't quite understand what was going on. He didn't get why he still couldn't just walk in someplace and buy one.
I had an old friend who's like a cat, like finally thinking about getting a PS5, and he was convinced that it wasn't out yet.
Right.
He couldn't find one.
Never
anywhere.
seen it on a store shelf. Yeah. Yeah. It's
I'm like, no, it's been out for over a year. You just can't. You can't find one unless you're lucky or scalping or something.
Yep, and you're right. Like, it does tie into the bigger global story of a pandemic and the supply chain shortages.
Once again, when you're fighting a man to the death for that can of Mountain Dew in April, you remember this. You remember Uncle Matt said you were going to be doing that. It's true.
You still believe it?
I mean, I don't think I'm actually going to fight a man to the death for a can of Mountain Dew Zero, but
But that's only because you stocked up on it, right?
I had to go find more.
Just fucking with you.
I have. You know how many far-flung Targets I've had to go to get that shit?
Dude,
I was like, maybe I can get someone. I'm up in San Francisco visiting my mom, and I did like a search for Mountain Dew Zero on the Target website. There is no Mountain Dew Zero at a Target within 150 miles of San Francisco.
It's not just that, Matt. I can't get Coke Zero anywhere.
It's crazy.
I have to go on a Target's website and search for it, and then like keep expanding it 5 miles, 25 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles, and there's just none.
Yeah.
Why is there no Coke Zero?
It's a can shortage.
Is that what it is?
That's the main thing. Is a can.
I don't even want the cans.
So,
I want the 20-ounce bottles, the 6-packs.
Those I haven't seen those as much. So all the Mountain Dew Zero I found recently has been in the bottles. So they're getting there, but the cans it started with the cans because the aluminum is hard to get now because the import problems.
Oh, anyway,
the aluminum for all your Coke cans is sitting in a container ship 180th in line outside of Long Beach Harbor. Like that's where it is.
All right, we got to start picking it up because we got not a ton more to go, but still more to go, and we're running out of time. Next up, here it is, worst game we played. And this is literally what's the worst game of 2021.
There is no competition on this one.
We both picked the same one. I bet you this is another award everyone in chat can guess what we're going to pick.
If they even remember this.
If they even remember this.
I mean, I had to look at it because I knew there was something in the back of my mind that it was a terrible game. And I had to look it up.
I always get the title
and then I was
wrong.
And then I was like, "Oh, that was this year! Wow!" Yeah. Like it's everything before the vaccines, everything before I got the vaccine, I'm like is like 2020.
BV
2020 ended in like March.
Yeah, before vaccine, after vaccine.
And the chat has it.
Oh, they got it.
Oh yeah,
there it is. The
well, they did. Well, almost because they said everyone gets the name wrong. Because it is Balan Wonder World.
Yes,
Wonderland.
I do the same thing. I call it Balan Wonderland
because Wonderland is just a more natural word to say because of Alice in Wonderland.
Well, it's like I can't remember with the Disney on the East Coast. Is it Disneyland or Disney World? Like
land is on the West Coast, World is in Florida. So there's an element of that. Also, like, what a weird word.
Dude, just look at the art in this game.
Yeah, that was this year, Justin Horman. It was like February or something.
Dude, just look at the art in this game. I'm gonna try to scrub back here.
And again, like
look at that dude.
This is sort of an evolution of Knights. Like the evolution of Knights' art style, but Knights' art style worked on the 32-bit console because it was more abstract. Like once you put the details in of like the guy's shirt and his hair and the eye like it just looks weird and uncanny. Like
it's so bad.
Like this is an element of and they're trying with like some of the hair stuff there where it's like it's a good contrast to Ratchet.
It is.
Like, this is how things can go wrong.
No matter how much horsepower you have.
Like, someone really tried to make that basketball look real.
Yeah,
but like
they worked hard on it. Weirder character art from Vincent. Balan or Dokev? They're pretty close.
Yeah, I will say Dokev's characters have more personality.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, they can do that dance and stuff.
I don't like looking at any of them.
No, but I'll tell you, I think we're going to be stuck looking at Dokev because I think that thing's going to be a hit.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think it's going to do well. This game did not do well, and it may have ended Yuji Naka's career. So I
would argue that Yuji Naka's career has ended a while ago. He just didn't know it yet.
Yeah.
I thought Yuji Naka's career was pretty much over with Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg.
That's where it really ended? Yeah.
Which this game reminds me of, uncomfortably so.
Billy Hatcher's better than this game.
It is.
By a wide margin.
But this game has that same sort of like, why?
I know.
They do it. It's like,
why would you do it?
Like, how did no one stop you?
Yeah.
You know, like.
Great. Yep. So there you go. Worst game of 2021. Anyone who wants to argue about this, I'll Indian wrestle him or something. Next up. This is also a fun category. The game we didn't get. So this category is where we pick a game that other people either love or hate, and we're on the complete opposite side of it, and we don't get it. So say I love Balan Wonderworld, which would be insane. But say I did, it would be the game I didn't get.
Yeah, I would just pull the plug on the TriCaster right now. if you
Show's over.
Show's over, kids.
Yep.
There's no more.
Yep. So
There's no more Shane.
So a game we didn't get is basic. Generally, the way we usually do it is the other way, where it's a game that a lot of people love that we didn't like as much. Matt, what is the game that you did not get for 2021?
Deathloop. I do not understand where the 9 and 10s came from on this. I don't get it.
I mean, I do kind of get
really
that. I
don't.
mean, I think the design is pretty interesting and unique.
Oh, yeah, but I just don't think it added anything, and I found it mostly annoying after a while. I'm like, I don't want to keep doing this. It's just like, we'll get to it later, but it's like, this is exactly how not to get me to like essentially a roguelike. Like, it's just, it never felt like I was not doing the same thing over and over again when I die and redo it. And then when I'd succeed and do things and move on, none of that ever felt very satisfying.
Yeah.
And like, there's a point at which early on, it's fun to see him get tossed around and beat up and not know what's going on, but it got old pretty quick. And then like the way he tries to turn the tables is just sort of like, I don't know, like none of it worked for me. And I'm just, part of it is I think I'm going to have to admit that I just don't like how Arcane makes games.
Yeah.
Like I really want to like Dishonored and Dishonored 2.
And I don't really.
And I want to like this, but I just don't.
I agree with you. I'm the same way with Arcane. Like, I liked Prey the most out of all of them.
Prey was the best thing I think they've made. I really like Prey.
A lot of them, it's just, I don't like the art in hardly any of them.
No.
It's just very, and look, again, art is very subjective.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Because I don't like it, I totally understand someone else
Like, I definitely
might,
think,
but
like, what the art style they're going for in, like, Dishonored, I think they get there. I think they certainly achieve it, but I don't like it.
I don't like it. Yeah. It's not this bad or, like, they didn't execute
That, by the way, is the same way I feel about the character design in Arcane. Like, I'm reminded of Dishonored in
a little
Arcane,
bit.
and
Yeah, I can see
not
where
exactly
you would
the
say
same,
that.
but it's something about it. They're just not far enough away from Dishonored for me to like how those characters look in that.
I can see where you would say that.
But yeah, this I just don't. I mean, it's not like I think it's terrible, but like the fact that this game got 10 out of 10 from people, it just boggles my mind. Yeah, I try very hard to sort of like kind of leave that space for opinion differential and all that. I do not think that is a defendable opinion, that this is a 10 out of 10 game.
I'd like to hear someone defend it to someone like us.
Yeah, I don't.
Who would ask him really hard questions.
Because it's one thing to like, to really love a game. Like I really love Chorus. I really love a lot of games. But like, if I wrote a review of Chorus, would I give it a 10 out of 10? Of course not.
No, you're conscious of the fact that you have certain things that you like that other people may not like as much, and you understand that maybe you're on an island on some things, and you wouldn't try to say, well, this is my definitive opinion, and everyone else should agree with it, and this is everyone else's favorite whatever.
I saw a review. I was looking at a video review of the G.I. Joe deck building game, which just came out, and I played with our friend Kevin last week.
Oh.
And we were kind of like, oh, yeah, there's some randomness because there's dice in it. And that's not really popular in board games right now. It's dice, randomness like that.
Yeah.
And I saw a review, and this guy was like, he loves G.I. Joe. It's one of his favorite things from when he was a kid. And he got this game, and he played it. And he's like, if there's two things, if you love G.I. Joe and you love or don't mind randomness in a game, it's like a 7 out of 10. If you don't like both of those things, it's like a 3.
Okay.
And I'm like,
that makes sense.
Like, that's fair. Yeah.
I get it.
He's like, if you don't love both of those things, if you don't like randomness or you don't like G.I. Joe, it's like a 5 out of 10. And if you don't like both of those things, it's a 3 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
So he gave you like a range of what to do. And I felt, as someone who had just played the game, that was a pretty accurate summary.
Okay.
So that kind of thing I get. But in that sense, it's like if he'd said the G.I. Joe game was a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
If you love, like, even someone who loves G.I. Joe will not call that game a 10 out of 10. And that's how I feel about Deathloop. It's like, you can admire what it's doing without what I can only describe
Gushing
as
over it.
hyperbole.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I found reading those 9 and 10 reviews was bizarre to me. It was like looking into another universe.
Okay.
So,
My
which I guess
pick
is fitting for that game.
My pick is getting dark. Look at that. This is
Yeah.
the darkest it's ever been since we've done a
It's
show.
it's 4:40. So.
Oh no, we gotta get moving. Okay, the game I didn't get, and I don't think anyone would be surprised by this either. You can probably guess this, although the chat hasn't yet. Is Metroid Dread. I don't think the game is bad. I don't think the game is great. Mm-hmm. A lot of critics think it's great.
Yeah, the defend to the death people on this game are bizarre.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And
I'm part of it's just the Nintendo effect. It's like you can't criticize a Nintendo game for 6 months.
it's also been a lean year for Switch, let's be
Sure.
honest. There hasn't been a big blockbuster. This was kind of like the one big game for the entire year. So I
Yeah,
can
and there were
understand.
some people that was like, finally, the game of the year is the Switch game again. And they thought Metroid Dread was like a lock for that, which is
so bizarre.
ridiculous.
I mean, my biggest problem with it is that it doesn't feel like a Metroid game to me. It feels like in stops and starts it does, but there's no reason. Like, all the stuff that they added to it made it worse.
yeah.
It did. I can't think of a single addition to this game that made Metroid better.
No.
And it's
Not
just,
really.
I struggle to.
I still do like the counter move, but that's from Metroid 2.
Yeah,
from the
I
remake.
struggle to understand how people could like the Emmy stuff.
I don't know.
I don't understand it. How could somebody like that, Matt?
I don't know.
So I don't
Like,
get it.
The one-hit stealth, like that is like I have played so many bad stealth games that do similar things, and I never have liked that once. And then on top of that, the fact that you beat them the same way every time, like it's not even like each Emmy you have to hit a different target on their body to blow the armor that then kill them, or something. It's always the face.
Yep.
It's always the same weapon, and then it's always to charge it up and shit. It's the same thing. I mean, to the
Yeah.
point that the game even kind of lampshades it when they just like kill off the last one in a cutscene.
Right. Yeah.
And like it's just. I don't know. Bleh.
I don't get it.
Don't get it.
Category is games we don't get. I don't get it.
I don't get it. GIT. GITIT. Get it.
All right, let's move on. Next up, this is the big award. Best platform. So this is the platform that we feel like had the best 2021. And that means by platform, it's not best platforming game. It's, PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, whatever. And we agree on this one. The winner for the best platform of 2021 is Xbox Series X. Not even a question.
Yeah, just the thing I played the most by far.
By 20 times I've played my Xbox Series X more than any other platform this year. Not even close. The hardware's great, minus the fact that it cuts out with my TV every once in a while, which is really effing annoying.
That is annoying.
That is really annoying.
And some of the OS stuff is still
little
rough
weird
in places.
I've had it crash way more than my PS5, for example.
Yeah.
Um,
That might just be usage,
could be.
but
Yeah. But otherwise, it's a great piece of hardware. Having Game Pass, I never run out of something to play. The exclusives this year were great. We had Halo Infinite. We got Forza Horizon at the end of the year. Both Game of the Year contenders at the very least.
you could also argue PC on this because they share a lot
Psychonauts
of the
2,
same
another
stuff.
Game of the Year contender.
But like my PC is not powerful enough.
Mine
My
either.
PC does not have the performance of the Series X at this
No,
point.
my Series X kicks my PC's
Yeah.
ass, which is why I want him to let me install Windows on it. Because I'll never find a GPU for less than $1,000.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like I know it's time to build a new PC. I built mine. When did Witcher 3 come out? 2015.
17, wasn't
May
it?
2015.
Was it
Witcher
15?
3.
No, you're right. It was 15.
2015.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my PC is gonna be 7 years old next May. That's old for a gaming PC.
I built mine when I launched SIFTD. So mine's 6 years old. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I need an upgrade for sure. But anyway, Xbox Series X was a great year. Sony had a lot of its stuff get moved out of the year. God of War was supposed to come this year. Horizon was supposed to come this year. Gran Turismo was supposed to come this year. All of them got shoved out of the year. Ratchet's great, obviously. Returnal was good. It had some good stuff, but the breadth of the entire discussion in Switch wasn't even a factor. PC, I considered. It's been a pretty good year for PC, unless you want to try to build one. And then it was a terrible year for PC.
Yeah.
It was an easy pick for me. Xbox Series X. How long has it been since PlayStation or Switch? I mean, when's the last? We've never given it to Xbox in 6 years.
I don't think so. I mean, the
Ever.
Xbox One was such a dud.
Right out of the gate. Yeah. And look, this
It
is
was never even a
well-deserved.
contender.
This was 6 years of them building back.
Yeah.
So it's well deserved. They knocked it out of the park. They're doing a great job.
The Game Pass doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it absolutely doesn't hurt. So there you go. Best platform of 2021. Matt and I both agree is Xbox Series X. Next up, best graphics. Here we get to the categories where we give a runner-up and a winner. And we do need to speed this up, Matt. Otherwise, we're going to be here all flipping night. Your runner-up for best graphics. And, we actually are different on this one. What's your runner-up for best graphics?
Well, I do want to give a quick shout-out to a game that I didn't pick as a runner-up because it's not on the par with these things, but I was really impressed by it just visually and aesthetically. A game called The Ascent, which is that cyberpunk Diablo twin-stick shooter. Like, that's on Game Pass, too. If you haven't played that thing, download that and take a look at the best cyberpunk world ever realized in a video game.
Yeah.
Like, it is gorgeous.
It is, yeah.
It is an incredible piece of
and
work.
You can see a lot of it at once, too, because it's an isometric game.
Oh, yeah. And so you get to see layers of the city, like, looking down. Like, put Cyberpunk 2077 to shame. Shame.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The
Honorable
Ascent.
mention.
Honorable mention, The Ascent. Great.
Yep.
But the runner-up here is for Forza Horizon 5. I realize some of it's kind of cheating to put in a driving game. It's a big open world, and you don't have to do a lot of detail. And the humans just still don't look very good.
Yeah.
But just driving through the areas in this is incrable.
Let's be honest. The cars are the characters.
Cars are incredible. Yeah, the cars are the people. Like, nobody cares what the humans look like. Let's see what the cars are.
Yeah.
Just look. I'm continually struck. Like I have screwed up turns because I have been distracted by how good this game looks.
Yep.
It looks so good that I like driving through the woods and mud tracks like this, and I don't even mind that I hate off-roading because it's so
I like
slippery.
all the different disciplines in this game. I enjoy them
This
all.
is the most fun I've had with everything across the board of any of the Horizons. Like, I don't avoid any particular kind of event
because I haven't come across many drift events.
Yeah, they're in there. You gotta.
I avoid those in every racing game because I just hate them. But yeah.
The trick is to have a car that's you specifically tune for it, so it makes it easy.
I guess.
But
this game is freaking gorgeous.
Just gorgeous, like in either mode, performance or quality. Like, it doesn't really matter. You get a little bit of extra bells and whistles on quality, but it's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, this game's gorgeous. We already knew that. Fantastic.
Yep. And my pick. So I decided to break it up a little bit. I wanted to award one game for its art and award another game for predominantly its technical prowess. And so the runner-up for me is my art pick, and that is Psychonauts 2. Matt mentioned it earlier. Like, it's one of the best-looking games of 2021. And it's not because it's pushing a ton of polygons or it has ray tracing and all these crazy zany effects. It's about the art and the level design and the character design. It's about the variety. Again, It Takes Two, also very similar. Like, there's just so many different things in the game that are done so well visually. And I'll say this too. I am actually not a huge fan of like the character designs in the Psychonauts franchise.
They're weird, and I feel like they should put me off, but they don't. And
they
I don't
do
know why.
me a little bit, but everything else is just amazing. Like, I feel like it's too easy to just hand the award to a game that just is on a powerful piece of hardware. Like, a lot of games have an advantage right now because maybe they were built specifically for Generation 9 consoles. This wasn't. This game has been in development for like 5 years. It still makes a huge impact. Like, when I think back across the year of games that I played, what visual moments do I remember? Like, half of them are from this game, Matt. Like, just the positions that they put you in and how well they realize it. Like, the teeth. Like, there's just so much little stuff like that about this game, well deserving of my honorable mention, my runner-up for best graphics of 2021. All right, let's get to the winners. And everyone can probably guess this winner.
Yeah, this is not a mystery.
It's not a hard one to guess. And we also have the same winner. And the winner for the best graphics of 2021 is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I don't know what else we have to say about the game at this point.
Yeah, look at it.
Yeah, there you go.
Like you said, next gen is here.
Yeah.
When you put this in.
Yeah, that's when you know. That's when you know why you spent all the money on your new console when you play this game. And eventually there will be a game like this for Xbox Series X as well if Horizon didn't do it, because Halo Infinite did not do it for me with Xbox.
No, not a level. I mean, I think Infinite looks nice.
Yeah,
but it doesn't look like this.
Horizon's close. But Hellblade looks pretty damn good.
Up there.
Yep. So we'll get it
Avowed
eventually.
might be up there.
Yep.
We need to see more of that.
Yep. We'll get it eventually for Xbox. But this is the first one we got for PS5. And
Hell, it might be a third-party game.
Yeah.
on Xbox.
And the other thing too, it could be, you're right. The other thing about it too is that like this isn't just about the effects and the polygons and it also has amazing art and amazing
the presentation,
animation,
the animation, and the
the
visual storytelling is second to none.
It's amazing.
I mean, Insomniac always has been second to none in that.
Yep.
But this is this game feels like, oh, this is what you wanted to do all those years, and now you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we got to keep moving. Next award. Most innovative game. This is a category that Matt usually doesn't care about. He is not a big innovation guy. I am. But Matt, as he has said many times, he'll take a quality game over an innovative game any day of the week, and I can appreciate that.
And that does tie into my pick for runner-up.
Yep, and it is?
It is Wildermyth.
I will tell you, Matt, I had never heard of this game.
Did not know what this was?
Nope.
Okay, so this is, and some of the people that have heard of this are probably saying like, well, then why didn't you have a strategy pick? Because this is a strategy RPG.
Oh.
And that's because I don't like the strategy in this game very much.
Interesting.
But the innovation of Wildermyth is that it tells and creates and procedurally generates stories for your characters. So the idea is that you start as these characters that are like farmers and they become heroes over the course of this. It's kind of telling the end of a mythic tale in this world, and then you focus on these characters. But the way that it develops, it's this procedural, like you say, procedural generation of it. You basically develop stories between the different characters in the party and how these characters go on. It invents little like kind of story arcs and quests for these characters to go through, and they're great. They're like you remember these characters, and like you can take those characters forward into other stories and like do things like,
awesome.
Stuff like that. You can have endless stuff where like you just kind of go through like sort of an endless dungeon sort of thing, but like the character stories will still evolve along it. And I admit I have not played a ton of this because I don't like the game part very much. But the story, the character story generation thing is genius. Like so it does not get my award for best strategy game because even though it's probably the best strategy game I played this year,
it's not worthy.
I still didn't want to give it an award for that. But innovation wise, I've never seen anything like that worked that well. That made me think like it was like making these stories for these characters and made me remember them and made me think like, oh yeah, that guy did this and they did this and that. It's like $25 on Steam. Try it.
Yeah,
like you'll probably like it more than I did because you like strategy, like turn-based strategy stuff more than like you're better at it. And if you turn the difficulty way up, it's basically XCOM.
Wow,
like it's hard.
Huh.
Like it's real. That's one of the reasons I don't like it is I find it frustrating.
Fair enough. Okay, my runner-up for most innovative game of 2021, and this is going to drive Matt up the wall, is Deathloop. And I will say this: I struggled between picking this or Returnal for the runner-up for most innovative because I've never really liked roguelikes, but I liked both Returnal and Deathloop. And I would argue that Deathloop actually does a better job of restructuring the roguelike in a way that made it palatable to me. Returnal does a good job as well, like not losing everything when you die, being able to kind of build up that arsenal as you keep trying over and over. Maybe part of the reason why I gave the nod to Deathloop was because I wasn't dying as much in Deathloop, and I wasn't pounding my head against the wall as much as I was in Returnal.
I mean, Deathloop definitely leans into the more kind of Dishonored BioShock pedigree more. So like, it's not trying to kill you constantly the way most roguelikes.
Returnal does the whole time.
Oh, yeah, that's the point. I mean, the horror of Returnal is that you've already died a bunch of times before you even started playing.
Right. Yeah.
And we're saying that like we're saying at this point that Returnal is my winner for most innovative.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So because we're talking about both games at the same time here, pretty much for all the reasons you're citing for Deathloop, except I don't agree that Deathloop does that. I think Returnal does it better.
Okay.
And the main thing for Returnal for me is like I have had friends who have never been able to play a roguelike or roguelite or however you want to phrase it, play this and love it.
That happened for me. The problem for me, though, is that Deathloop came after this. So this definitely was the first time I was like, I actually don't hate this. And actually, I'm kind of enjoying it. But I played Deathloop longer, got farther, didn't bounce off it as much. It just wasn't as punishing as Returnal.
You had your Dark Souls epiphany.
Yeah, I guess so.
And were able to apply that to Deathloop.
It's true.
Basically.
Yeah. So look, I just said that Returnal was like right there for me,
Mm-hmm.
so I totally get. I think depending on your tastes, you could pick either one of those, and I think they're great picks. My overall winner for most innovative kind of strays out of the bounds of both of those games, and that is It Takes Two. I've loved 3D platformers since the first time I played Super Mario
Put a
64.
mustache on a talking book, and Shane will give you best innovative every time.
Hook, line, and sinker. This game, I played 3D platformers for forever. If you guys remember, I think last year my pick for most innovative game was Fall Guys, because
Right.
it innovated the 3D platformer. It made it like a battle royale game. Now Hazelight has turned the 3D platformer into this awesome cooperative experience. I mean, I've honestly never played anything like It Takes Two.
Mm-hmm.
Have you?
I mean, I've played co-op platformers before, but nothing that was so designed around the idea.
Just 100%.
And
The
how
whole
like
thing
every
designed
time,
around it.
and how every section gives you a new thing to play with. Like,
Yeah.
like no two areas of this game play the same. Like you never hit a point where you feel like it's shown you everything it has,
The
because
rabbit
there's always
hole-
a new element to each area.
The rabbit hole goes deep too.
Yeah.
Like you keep playing this game, like some of the stuff that they start presenting you with is bonkers and awesomely bonkers.
And sometimes you can play this with like more casual players, and like it teaches well enough that they can do some stuff that you're like, oh, I wouldn't have wanted to try to explain how to do that from scratch with you, but the game has trained you how to play it properly. That it's a very smooth onboarding curve that like is it there's some talented people over there at Hazelight. My thoughts on A Way Out notwithstanding.
Yeah.
They build to the challenge so gradually you almost never notice it's happening.
Yeah.
It's really well done.
Yep. And they just keep piling on the stuff. Like any good 3D platformer, it's like they give you the
and
basics.
it's all fun.
And
it's all fun to do. Like
Yep.
there is no ability, temporary ability you get that is like, oh, it's so annoying. I hate having to do
this
that. No,
one.
they're all fun.
Can't wait till I get through this level.
No, they're all fun, and they're all like fun to go back to and
Yep.
do again. Yeah, it's
Anytime one of my favorite genres can get evolved in a significant way, I'm all for it. Just the fact that you have to play it with somebody else and you can't play it by yourself even if you want to. Whether you like it or not is one thing, but that's innovative. Like
ballsy.
It is.
Up
It
there.
takes some guts. Yep. So there you go. My pick for most innovative game of 2021. It Takes Two.
It's like how Kojima wanted to make Metal Gear Solid have one life, and then the disc was useless. And
Right.
You had to go buy another. Like, he was going to sell for $5 each, and like if you died, you had to go buy another copy.
It's like the worst idea
What a
ever.
dumb idea!
That is
Like,
the worst idea.
Making me go to Best Buy after I died. Fuck you! Like, come on.
Okay. Next category, most anticipated game of 2022, and we're coming down the home stretch. We have most anticipated game and then game of the year. Most anticipated game of 2022. We also have a runner-up for that. What's your runner-up, Matt?
My runner-up have finally made it onto this list because it actually is coming out next year. Elden Ring.
Yeah.
I know it's not on yours because you already played it.
Yeah, I did play
and
it.
you already know.
And I do know.
But now I'm finally at the point where I can start looking forward to this and
Yeah.
being excited because it's only a few months away.
It is. It's just like 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah.
End of February.
Yeah, it won't be long, and we'll all be able to partake, and you guys will all be able to laugh at me suffering through it.
Yeah.
I probably will do a stream for this game when it comes out, so you guys have that to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Entertainment abounds. But we just talked about this game a ton. We probably don't have to say much more about it.
Yeah, I don't think you need to explain why.
Yeah,
like
especially
someone's-
you.
Yeah, sure.
I think we all get why you're excited about this game. My runner-up for most anticipated game of 2022 is Horizon Forbidden West. Thought I might be playing it this year.
Close. Almost.
Thought I might be playing it like right now.
Yeah.
But didn't work out that way. But that's okay. It just makes for a more awesome 2022. Horizon was my game of the year in 2017, so pretty obvious why I would be really excited for the sequel. PlayStation 5 exclusive, built for the PS5, gorgeous. And if it has all the elements that the prior game had, it's going to be great.
Oh, they did show PS4 shots for the first time.
Oh, they did.
Yesterday.
Also, it is going to run on both.
Oh, yeah, they always said that.
Oh, that's right. It's hard to remember. Like
I remember because it looks great.
it does look great. Yeah.
It still looks good on the PS4.
It doesn't look as good as Ratchet, but
No, but
it's
again,
an open world game.
It's an open world game, and again, you are hamstrung by the fact that they're humans.
It's true.
Like, it's easier to make cartoonish characters look that good.
Yeah,
like
'cause
your
you don't know
brain-
what they're
your brain
supposed to look
accepts it. Yeah,
like.
your brain accepts it more easily. The more you can abstract, the better.
Yep. So anyway, there
Unless
you go.
you're Yuji Naka.
Yeah.
Then don't do that.
There you go. That's my runner-up for most anticipated of 2022. Matt, what is your winner for
My
most
winner
anticipated
is
game.
Horizon Forbidden West.
Yep.
Which is, Horizon was also my game of the year for 2017. I played it 3 times total.
Yeah.
So of course, yeah, this is number 1 for next year by far.
Yeah.
Certainly for the first half of 2022. Who knows what's coming in the second half? But like,
or what we think is going to come and then will be delayed.
right? Yeah, and then be on this list again next year.
Yeah. It's a great pick. Obviously, it was my runner-up, so I can totally understand why it's your winner. And I think people probably can guess my winner for most anticipated game. I think it was my most anticipated game last year.
I believe so.
If I remember correctly, and it did not work out, and that is God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah, but this time I think you're probably right.
I think it will come out this year. Look, they had a trailer with a date for 21. If they delay it to 22 and it doesn't make it, there's something going on at Sony Santa Monica. Mm-hmm. So this game is also going to be playable on both PS4 and PS5. It's been in development for a long time, at least like 3 years at this point.
Yeah.
And it's being built, off of something that was already built, so it shouldn't be like they're starting from scratch.
I will never know why they put 2021 in that trailer. It was always fantasy. I would love to ask them that. Ask like Cory Barlog that.
Sony. He'll just say
Sony.
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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's probably a stockholder thing.
maybe. God of War was my game of the generation. God of War 2018. Mm-hmm. So it was basically my game of the year for 2017 versus my game of the year for 2018 and my game of the generation, and that's why God of War gets the nod for me. God of War was right in my wheelhouse in so many ways. I cannot wait for this game. Hopefully it's as good as the God of War 2018, and if it is, it's going to be a tough battle. Well, sitting here at this point next year, Matt, imagine that battle.
Yeah, between that and Horizon and Elden Ring,
There's
and
so
Breath
many.
of the Wild 2, maybe.
Actually,
many. It's worth noting that I didn't even think of it. I don't even think of it really, but like when they ran the footage of Breath of the Wild 2 in the little montage they did in the Game Awards, down at the bottom it said sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which reminded me we don't even know the name of that game yet.
No, they haven't given us a title.
They don't name Zelda games blank 2.
Yeah, it's not Breath of the Wild 2.
It's not Breath of the Wild 2. It's going to be called Legend of Zelda something.
Yeah, but they obviously
we don't even know what that is yet.
They obviously want to coast off of Breath of the Wild, so they're going to keep that title there for a while.
They're going to keep you thinking about that until it's time to pre-order for sure.
Yep. Okay, so there you go. Those are our most anticipated games, and now it's time for our picks for Game of the Year 2021. Once again, we have a runner-up and a winner. Matt, what is your runner-up for Game of the Year 2021?
If this hadn't been like a late entry, we probably would have the same runner-up and winner this year.
Okay.
But it did, so my runner-up is Chorus.
I have to admit, I was very shocked by this.
Chorus is really, really, really good. Again, sort of going back to that G.I. Joe deck building thing, if you're me, it's like a 9. Mm-hmm. If you're a normal person, it's probably more like a 7.
Yeah.
But this really...
Well, this is your award.
Yeah, but this really scratched...
You aren't picking this for someone else.
This really scratched an itch that, like, nothing else it really even tries to. Like, Rebel Galaxy is probably the only other franchise that really has been addressing this kind of thing. And we don't really do mods here, but the TIE Fighter remake... mod was amazing this year too. So it's just nice to see this sort of subgenre addressed by anyone at all, let alone with like the production value of this game. And this is this is not going to set the world on fire, but it looks nice.
It does. If it does well enough, the sequel could become something special.
Yeah, sequel could be something great.
Yep.
And this is pretty good for. I mean, this is by the guys who did Galaxy on Fire on mobile. Like this is basically a mobile.
Wow.
This is a mobile developer going console.
Wow.
Essentially.
That's impressive.
And they fucking nailed it.
They did.
So, yeah, I can't say enough good things about Chorus. I'm still playing it. I'm still enjoying it. I hope they do 3 more.
Okay, and they may. You already sold 1, Matt.
Yeah, I mean they did a lot of Galaxy on Fires, so let's just do a lot of choruses.
You already sold 1. If people keep buying them, maybe
I sold JM Rain 1 too. He said.
Oh yeah, awesome. Okay, my runner-up for Game of the Year, and the Matt alluded to that if it wasn't for Chorus, he would also have this as his runner-up, is Psychonauts 2. Mm-hmm. It's the whole package. Everything about it's great. Here's Double Fine, a studio that I admire. Tim Schafer, a man that I admire. And they make amazing games.
Tim of Legend.
Yeah, Tim of Legend. We've obviously, I think if you start thinking back through this whole show, what game has Shane talked about? Probably the most of any game. This is it. And I alluded to this earlier. I kind of was foreshadowing that it was my runner-up for Game of the Year. Because when you do awards like this, you have to think about the breadth of everything. And you start realizing very quickly, hey, what are the games that keep popping up? And for me, this is it. This game kept popping up. I considered it for almost every category. And it won a lot of them. It won for story for me. It won best in its genre. It's a great game. And everyone should play it. And I hope everyone does during the holiday break maybe. It's not exceedingly long. It's the perfect length. It really is the perfect length. Which I think a lot of people would ask for a lot more of these days. Then, I'm cool with a 20-some hour game. I don't need it to be 60 or 70 hours. No. I really don't. This game ends exactly when it should.
Valhalla.
Exactly. Yeah. That's too long.
40-hour expansion. Yeah. Nobody needs it. The game's already 180 hours long. What are you doing?
It's insane, dude. It's insane. So anyway, my runner-up for Game of the Year is Psychonauts 2. Congratulations to Double Fine and the whole crew of people over there. And here it is. Our pick for Game of the Year 2021. And this is one year where we both picked the same game. Although I think we do this pretty often. Pick the same game for Game of the Year?
Yeah, it happens a fair amount. I think
more than half, probably, I would guess.
Horizon, God of War.
Yeah, this. That's 3 out of 6 right there. So we're at least 50%.
What was last year?
We both picked... Did we both pick Control?
No, I didn't pick Control.
I did.
I don't remember what
Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was my Game of the Year. The year it came out. Yep.
Yeah, it was mine. I thought that... Was it mine? I have to look that up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I said 50% or more. 50% or more were the same. And we're the same this year. And the SIFTD Game of the Year for 2021 is Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Do we need to say anything about this game anymore? No.
It's real good.
We've talked about it
game good.
Yeah. Okay.
Play game.
You're right. We don't need to say anything else. If you watch this whole show, you know exactly why it's our Game of the Year.
Although Mark Simpson asked why both most anticipated are PS5s, why is the best platform Xbox? Because the most anticipated is next year.
Wait. Think about that one again, Mark.
We'll run through that one again.
Think about that one for a second.
The most anticipated games of 2022 do not make something the best platform of 2021.
Yeah. It was best platform of 2021. Not, I don't even know what he's talking about. Anyway.
We both picked Witcher 3.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's 4 at least.
We both picked Last of Us 2. That was last year.
All right. Yeah. Man, I thought Last of Us 2 was like 2 years ago for some reason.
Nah, it was last year.
Dude, the Rona has my timing all screwed up. Actually, before we go.
I think the only time we might have disagreed on Game of the Year was 2016 when I picked Last of Us. When I picked No Man's Sky.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think that was it. We're pretty unified on that stuff for whatever reason. Before we go, though, I do have one bonus award that I want to award. As former supervising producer and editor-in-chief at Game Trailers, I feel it was my duty to at least share my pick for the trailer of the year. I know Jones does it over on Easy Allies. I've given him a fist bump virtually because we're keeping the faith here between our two different outlets. My pick for that is the debut trailer for Redfall. It's my favorite trailer of 2021. I think it tells a great story. Most importantly, it gets me really excited for the game. It also left me with a bunch of mystery. I'm really excited for Redfall. Is that coming this year?
Maybe. We haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, it's kind of went underground, which leads me to believe that it probably isn't. But this is an Arcane game that does not look like an Arcane game.
Arcane Austin, so it's just different crew, I think.
But this was and I'll just scrub through it really quickly here to kind of jog your memory. This was my pick. This is my pick for the trailer of the year. It's basically a vampire cooperative.
This was this year.
I know.
Thing. I was kind of expecting to see something at the Game Awards from it. But.
Yep, didn't show up. The cooperative vampire hunting game. And this is all CG. This isn't what the game actually looks like. But...
Okay, 2019, I picked Sekiro. You picked Fallen Order.
Okay. So, yeah, I knew I had picked Fallen Order the one year. There it is. SIFTD Game of the Year Awards 2021. We made it, Matt. Barely. We're way over time. Hopefully you guys
Vincent
have enjoyed
says that is currently summer 2022.
Okay.
So we'll see. Plenty of room for delays.
That one's going to be delayed.
Yeah.
I have a pretty good feeling.
It's Bethesda. I mean, that's gonna...
Yeah. Well, Vincent says it has room to be delayed and it can still make it this year.
Yeah.
I would
fall to December and then Dying Light 2 it to 2023 probably.
Yeah, I would love to do Q&A because this is it. This is like the end for us for 2021. Like, we're not doing another broadcast. Like, after this, I just have to crank out like 9 episodes of Factor Factor in the next 3 days and get them all set up so that there's content running over the holiday break. But this is the final time we get to speak to you guys. And I just want to say, and I'm going to flip to my camera here so I can speak right into it. I just want to say thank you to all you guys. Like, I just got like a report today from Twitch where it talks about like how many people have shown up, like what our max number of people were and all that kind of stuff. And like how many bits people have given us, how many subs have been given away. Like you guys are awesome. Like, you have given away so much to people you don't even know. Like, just trying to impart on people what our community is. It's amazing. Like, how much money you guys have dedicated to giving away subscriptions so that people will come back and watch this show or use their subscription to watch episodes of Factor Factor a week early or whatever. I am humbled by it, to be honest with you. Like, I wish I could say that I know for a fact that it's a reflection of people like Matt and I who are kind of in front of the cameras, and I would hope that like how we are reflects on our audience. And if that is true, I'm very proud of that because you guys are awesome. And it's been a great year interacting with you guys. I feel like I've made some new friends. It's always great to see new people roll into the chat, and when they finally get the guts to like leave a comment and Twitch tells us it's their first time, like it's that, I don't even know how to explain the feeling that you get. And it's because of you guys. Like, people show up to watch the show, and Matt and I are sitting here blathering. I feel like we've gotten better at getting you guys into the show, and I want to continue to do that going forward because you guys know your shit and you're awesome. But like, we should have done it before that, and I wish I had done it before that. I wish I had incorporated you guys into things a lot earlier than we did. And you are the people that these new people are interacting with. And you're the reason, almost as much as Matt and I, in the content of the actual show, that these people come back. Because you're the ones they're rubbing elbows with. It's not Matt and I. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I can't put into words how much I appreciate all of you. People who donate money so that Matt and I can keep doing this, what we love to do. And we're blessed to be able to do this. And even though it has been an absolutely rotten year for me financially, that doesn't change any of that. Because it's like there are people on the fringes of our community that come and go. Some go and never come back. But we have a core of people who are dedicated to us and are here every week supporting us and are there every month. You're the people who, when you see the Patreon really drop, you're like, man, can I bump up my pledge a couple bucks this month to try to cover that? Like, you're the heart and the soul of SIFTD. And I love you guys very much, and I appreciate you guys very much. But I also need a break. And so it's time to take a break. It's been a grind of a year. Matt, fist bump, man, on another year. Game face, SIFTD. You've been amazing as well. I love you to death. You'll be my brother till the end. I see people are dropping all kinds of stuff in chat.
Close to that level 5.
Yeah, you guys are just dropping all kinds of bits and subs. And Dark Force 256, thank you for the tier 1 sub. JM Rain, thank you for gifting subs. You guys are just awesome. Cinetyke, thank you for all the bits. Yeah, it's just amazing. We have a great community. Jose Holiday, thank you for the bits. Yep, everyone's like, I'm beat. Norris Nexi, thank you for Twitch Prime. Texture Glitch, thank you for Twitch Prime. Chevelle Man, thank you for Twitch Prime. Yeah, so I can't really say yet when I'll be back because I have not bought my tickets yet because they're outrageously priced. Mm-hmm. And so my wife and I were trying to like hold out on getting our return tickets to try to get them cheaper. So I'm not 100% sure when I'll be back. It's looking like the 31st. Because right now, that's the cheapest day to fly because most people want to party on New Year's. Right. And we're more than happy to fly home to California for cheap instead of partying. So it's looking like probably things won't pick up until like the first couple days of January. But make sure you follow us on Twitter, @SIFTD Games. And then you'll know what's going on as far as when we get back and when things start rolling again. There will be content going through our channels throughout the entire break. Most of it's going to be Pack Factor. It's all I can do. Vince is going to create a couple Game Pass or fails, but for the most part, it's going to be a whole lot of pack here for the next week and a half. I hope you guys are cool with that.
Pack attack.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a pack attack for the next 8 days. And I'm going to bust my ass to make sure you get that pack attack. So watch the damn shows. But anyway, I think that's it, man. It's been an amazing year. Again, thanks to you guys for everything. You've been amazing. Happy holidays to you guys. Whatever you celebrate, whether it's Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever. I don't care. I just hope that whatever you do celebrate is awesome. And you get time with your family and with your friends and time to take a break. And that is something that I need, and Matt probably needs it too. And Christmas is great for that. So, again, much love, guys. Thank you for all your support this year. Thanks for watching this crazy long episode of Game of the Year. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. Happy New Year. We'll see you on the other side.